We're live.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us at our virtual meeting of the East Bay Regional Park District this afternoon on April 7th. We're happy you're joining us. Please bear with us as we deal with this new technology. And I have just a little bit second here. We are here today live. We have received public comments by email, which the board has received, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And thank you for joining us.
I know I am.
Okay.
Back.
All right, everybody, we're live. And Dennis, if you could please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sure, please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the
republic
Which
which stands
nation
Under God,
God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
for all.
thank you very much, Director Waspy. Have all the directors had an opportunity to take a look at the agenda?
Yes.
All right. Any adjustments to the agenda? Seeing none, a motion to adopt the agenda is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Lane and seconded by Director Waspy. All those in favor of adoption of the agenda, roll call. Director Wieskamp,
Aye.
Director Lane,
Aye.
Director Coffey,
Aye.
Director Rosario,
Aye.
Director Waspy? Did I say you twice? Director Eccles?
Aye.
Director Corbett, aye. Unanimous adoption of the agenda. So now I have a little announcement about public comments. It's our public comment period. So I'd like the public to know that we are working on our technology and we're hoping to have even more upgrades to the public comment session in the future. So we apologize and we ask you to bear with us as we address those issues in the future. But for today, our public comments were submitted via email to our clerk, Yolanda Burial Knight. We did ask that if comments were could be received early by Monday at 2 o'clock, that those comments would be compilated and shared with all board members. Board members do have all of the items that came in yesterday by the deadline, and even some others that came in after the deadline, and try to be as flexible as possible with that. So the board has had an opportunity to review those comments. I'll be asking our counsel, Carol Victor, to speak a little bit more about that in a moment, just as to the content of those items. And if people did not have access to the internet to send emails, we had the option of people calling in with their public comments, and those comments were transcribed and made available to the board as well. Any additional comments that will come in during the meeting will be made available to all of the board members to review. It will probably be not in real time, a little bit later today, and all of those comments will be made a part of the record, so they will be available to be reviewed by everyone, including, of course, the public. And with that, General Counsel Victor, would you like to give us a brief summary of the comments that we have received? I think you're on mute. I think you're still on mute. There you
Can
go.
you hear me okay?
Yes.
So I will read I briefly summarized all of the communications that came in so they could be read into the record. I will go through, again, these are very brief summaries. Overall, there were 16 emailed public comments and 3 voicemail messages that we were able to transcribe before the deadline. Ross Mitchell requested that parks be closed to protect public health. Kelly Schultz sent 2 emails. The first email requested parks to close to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and to protect employees. The second email questioned why East Bay Regional Park District parks are considered essential when city and state parks are closed. Kristen Horner, acting park supervisor, expressed thanks for keeping parks open and thanks for keeping employees who are unable to work on paid administrative leave. She requested that the park district implement hazard pay for those employees working in the field. Kevin Damstra, naturalist, requested hazard pay for employees in the field who are dealing with increased visitation. He also asked that attention be paid to the increased stress on employees balancing work with personal responsibilities of homeschooling or being a caregiver. He noted that the loss of certain seasonal and temporary staffing will increase the burden on regular employees. Rebecca Bryant requested that the parks be closed to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Carmen Gutierrez requested that the parks close. David Looney expressed thanks to the board of directors and park district staff who are keeping the parks open. Robert Spencer criticized how the Emergency Operations Center is operating during COVID-19. He requested that ICS protocols be followed and that the board have a liaison on the EOC. Chris Altman, retired fire captain and park ranger, requested that parks stay open and that Point Isabel be reopened. Estrella Kaczynski requested that parks stay open and that Mission Peak stay open. She supports people being able to enjoy outdoors during the pandemic. Peter Rausch expressed concerns with Director Corbett's statements at the last board meeting, characterizing as untrue public comments that were made at a board workshop. Janet Paulson sent 2 emails. She commented, the first email commented on increased traffic and speeding on Alhambra Valley Road, problems with social distancing, and too many off-leash dogs at Briones. Her second email noted that after she had sent the email, she saw that an electronic sign had been placed at Briones addressing her concerns. She thanked the board for the actions to promote health and safety in the parks. Lydia Wolger, a park ranger, sent 2 emails. The first email expressed strong concerns with rangers having to clean restrooms and the risk of exposure to biohazards. Her second email indicated that as long as restrooms remain closed, she rescinds her prior comments. That's a summary of the emails. There were 3 voicemails. Elisa from Piedmont asked what EBRPD's plans are for fuels management during the pandemic. She's concerned about the late rains and risk of fire. Chris Newey, AFSCME president, expressed concerns with employee safety and crowds on Easter Sunday, noting that it is a very busy day. He expressed concern that he had not been told what the plans are to discourage crowds and patrols on Easter Sunday. And he expressed his belief that the task force is not accomplishing the goal of improving communication between management and labor during the COVID-19 pandemic. Kelly Abreu stated that the Park District must look to its policy lodestar to guide actions at Point Isabel and Mission Peak, and that lodestar is to serve the entire public, not just neighbors. That concludes the summary of public comments that were received.
Thank you very much, General Counsel. I got a little ahead of myself. I'm going to call the roll, and we're going to ask for the roll to be called in just a moment. But I just want to reiterate that we did receive public comments, that we are holding this meeting in accordance with Governor Newsom's executive order so that board members are participating remotely. We are continuing to live audio stream this meeting, and we have provided the public the opportunity to submit their written comments for public comments or to call in and leave a voice message. So if there are additional comments out there, please do email us and write in. Those comments will be made available to the board. And with that, as I said, I apologize, we got ahead of ourselves. I'd like to ask the clerk to call the roll of the board.
Madam President, just by way of quick clarification on the public comments, Lisa was a voice message, and the latter two, Chris Newey and Kelly E. Brew, were actually emails.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Calling the roll, Director Lane,
Present.
unmute yourself. Okay, Director Wieskamp,
Here.
Director Eccles, Director Eccles.
She's missing from the
I
screen.
know she's here. Director Coffey,
Present.
Director Waspy,
Here.
Director Rosario,
Here.
and Director Corbett.
Here.
President Corbett. Staff that are present are General Manager Doyle,
Here.
Deputy General Manager Alvarez,
Here.
District Counsel Victor,
Here.
Assistant General Managers Ocker,
Here.
O'Connor,
Here.
Elchner,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Chief Chiabaro.
Here.
Okay, staff present are Kip Walsh,
Here.
Lisa Gorgian,
Here.
Juliana Shermer,
Here.
Ann Cassavon,
Here.
Ruby Tummer, not yet, Brian Holt,
Here.
Glenn Gilchrist, Ren Bates,
Here.
Kelly Barrington,
Here.
Katie Hornbeck,
Here.
Jeff Rasmussen,
Here.
Eric Fuller,
Here.
Lisa Mulliger, Steve Castillo,
Here.
Jeff
Here.
Michelle Strauss and O'Hara, Alan Love. And that's all that I see right now. We have technical assistance by Harold Amigo, Sharon Clay, and myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, can you confirm whether Director Eccles has been able to rejoin us yet? You're on mute, Madam Clerk.
I do not see her back on yet. Harold, can we get in contact with, oh, here she is. There she is. Director Eccles? She is unmuting herself. Director Eccles? She's in the meeting.
All right, she'll be joining us just a minute. While we're waiting for Director Eccles to join us, I just want to reiterate one more time for those in the public who are wishing to reach us with public comments on any of our items today. I want to just reiterate, there is a public call-in number which is listed on the agenda, but I will state it, 510-544-2016. If you call in, your comments will be transcribed and made available to the board later today so that we can review them and they will be made part of the record. Or if you would like to directly email, this is also on the agenda. I'm not looking, I don't see it in my, if you would like to email comments as you're listening today, you can email the clerk of the board at ybarial@ebparks.org. ybarial@ebparks.org. So thank you. Please comment if you wish. And with that, I think we have all, I just want to confirm all board members are with us, Madam Clerk.
Director Eccles? Okay, we're gonna have to call her. Sharon,
We have 2050.
that would be great. Sharon is gonna call her. She's in the meeting, but we can't hear her.
So she can listen in at this.
Yes, she can listen. And Madam President, we just had 3 staff join us. Alan Love, Tiffany Margalisi, and Monica.
Okay, so all board members are connected, yes?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. I would like to open the meeting to the general manager. At item C, a special update on the status of the East Bay Regional Park District, including coordination with our health departments. He will fill us in on park and trail use, temporary park closures in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency. Thank you very much, Mr. General Manager.
Thank you very much, President Corbett, members of the board and staff and public. These are unprecedented times, and I really appreciate people working through this process. I'm glad to see everybody is well and in attendance here. We are really dealing with a very fast-moving daily change with the circumstances. Since the original 7-county, originally 6 and 7-county order, there have been additional orders by the county health departments and also additional direction from the governor of California. The first order was the broad shelter at home order, which had a specific exception in item 10 to allow people to the outdoors for walking and for health, mental and physical health. The second order was for the governor to pass that statewide. The next direction was from the governor on the closing of parking lots in state parks and beaches. That is important to the East Bay Regional Park District for several reasons. One, we operate 3 state parks, and 2, that has an impact on the use within our own park system. The more parks that are closed in other areas, when we are doing our best to try to provide our mission to the public, is additional crowding and complication for us. The third order was from the county health agencies in coordination with all the park agencies and the other agencies in the county, which was to close active areas further, dog parks, picnic areas, anywhere that groups could gather. And that was the most recent communication. I want to be really express my deep appreciation first to all the doctors, nurses, and medical personnel who are on the front line every day dealing with this incredibly difficult and tragic situation. I also want to thank the health departments of particularly Alameda and Contra Costa County, who have availed themselves to the Park District daily with regular communication, and also invited us through our EOC to attend their meetings with the health departments. So we are getting daily updates from health departments of both concerns, reports, and things like that. And I just think that the county health departments have been really doing a magnificent job of communication and cooperation. I also want to realize that we have a lot of staff who are at home, and we have a lot of staff who are trying to do their job. Our core mission, of course, is to provide parks and the stewardship and maintenance of those land. And we could not have a more difficult challenge than today. We have, in fact, kept the majority of our parks open. We have closed about 20 facilities out of our 73 park systems. The trails are open. And what we are trying to address for the first time of ever having to do this is to close those areas where people will gather by picnic areas, by recreation facilities, and tend to gather and cannot maintain social distancing. I also want to thank the operations, public safety, and our environmental graphics for getting signage up in every single park in the district about our COVID-19 rules and about social distancing. And that's really been an incredible amount of work by a very limited staff at that time. Our goal, of course, is to follow the emergency resolution approved by the board of directors, which gave 3 main directions. Number 1 was to assure the staff of the Park District that they would continue to be paid and that their jobs are protected, that we would work in collaboration with health departments to make sure that we are creating protocols for safety and working towards that goal of safety. And 3 is to really keep as many parks and facilities open as feasible during this crisis. And that has been our attempt. I have to say that we've been building the plane as we've been flying it, and it has been a challenge for everyone. We have fairly good compliance on social distancing, but we, as you will hear from an update from Assistant General Managers O'Connor and Chaburo, that we still are having some people who are leaving their garbage in the parks and not packing in and packing out as we have requested repeatedly. We're getting some violations of parking, and we're getting still some people who are not listening to the direction from both the health agencies, the governor, and the Park District. But we are getting a lot of appreciation for the public, from the public, who really see this as an opportunity for them, who are basically trapped in their homes, to come to the parks. But we cannot encourage, in fact, we wish to discourage the continuation of crowds in the parks. And if we continue to have a lack of staffing in the parks and a lack of adherence to the regulations, then we will have to look at other closures. We are particularly concerned about the upcoming spring weekend with Easter, and the board will discuss that further and how we can address those challenges that are going to be before us very soon. Finally, we have had some issues with our request for people to put their dogs on leash everywhere in the Park District. The Park District has had a very liberal policy on dog walking off leash. This is not the time to think of yourselves and walk your dog off leash in the park. And we are really asking for the public's help on packing it in, packing it out. The restrooms are not available because we do not have the help we need to clean them, nor do we have the personal protection for employees that are necessary for their own safety. We are working very hard to get additional PPEs for the staff, for where they are essential and required by the health departments under protocols. But obviously, nurses, hospitals across the nation are having a very, very difficult time themselves, and they must come first. So that is my overview. I would like to have Assistant General Manager Anthony Chaburo come up and give a perspective on the EOC and the communications that we're having both with health departments to that level, but also general comments about patrol in the parks.
Thank you, General Manager. And we look forward to the comments by Chief Chaburo. I just wanted to mention for the board and the public listening that we will next hear from Chief Tony Chaburo on our emergency center and operations. Then Jim O'Connor will speak on operational issues. Then we will hear from Dr. Ana Alvarez and Kip Walsh on our employee and safety issues. So thank you all very much for your presentations.
Thank
Chief
you.
Chaburo.
Good afternoon, Madam President, fellow members of the Board of Directors, and esteemed colleagues. Anthony Chaburo, your AGM of Public Safety, and also your Chief of Police. I thank everyone for their good work. I thank everyone in the Public Safety Division and throughout the Park District for the good work that everyone's doing. Many people are working long hours, and I and my colleagues have certainly noticed that. So let's start with the Emergency Operations Center. We are now at a time where we were when we activated the center on March 30th. We were at a point where our incident was encompassing every single division of the Park District. And when something like that happens, it's a point where we want to trigger the activation of the Emergency Operations Center. And the reason why we do that is it ensures for proper communication, and it ensures for efficiency. And it ensures that we are making the appropriate decisions in the appropriate context with a variety of disciplines, or better said, they're called sections present. And I can give you an example of something like that is when we're taking on major action. For example, if we're going to close a park, well, that touches many divisions or many sections of the Emergency Operations Center. We could have for example, if we have a county public health order, we would need our legal team to look at that. If we need to broadcast messaging and ensure that the general public is notified, we have our public information section. Our liaison officers work closely with the county, as Mr. Doyle said, and they are the ones that are interfacing with the county group. So they bring back valuable information. We have our operations section that will undertake the exact needs that what we're doing. Our logistics center will order things and ensure that we have proper supplies. Our planning section will ensure that we have proper planning, that we're filling out our proper documentation. And then our finance section, which is very important. We need to track things. So this is a team effort. It's an effort that many people are meeting all day long in their different sections. We come together 3 days a week and we discuss what's important and the direction of the EOC. And we know that this is a marathon. We know that we'll be doing this for a long time, and we remain steadfast in serving the district and carrying this out. In terms of what we're seeing, I was on the phone today with a patrol sergeant. Sergeant Sagata and I had a good conversation, and really many things in the district now are weather dependent. As the weather goes up, the patron load is commensurate with that, and it goes up as well. We're seeing many people in the parks. We are seeing some adherence to social distancing. In other places, we are not. In some places, we still see groups of what appear to be separate people coming together and going on hikes. And we also still see violations. We still see those, and we do the best we can to address them. We've encouraged our staff to be judicious. We've let them know, we've emphasized that we trust them and we have confidence in them, and we want them to be judicious in their enforcement action. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions, or if Mr. Doyle, you have something else you would like me to cover.
That's fine. I think President Corbett, you can, unless there are questions, you can introduce Jim.
So, directors, I think maybe it's best that we listen to all the presentations and then ask our questions at the end. Does that sound good? All right. Jim O'Connor, AGM of Operations.
Good afternoon, Madam President, members to the board. Jim O'Connor, your Assistant General Manager of Operations. Chief Chirber covered a lot of the very same issues that operations staff are experiencing in parks. I want to commend the board early on for recognizing the importance of regional parks in the communities we serve during this time, and our staff, our field staff, are stepping up to make that happen. It's been difficult. As the GM mentioned, we are building this plan as we fly it, and we're trying to ensure the staff's safety as we go along here. To that end, we've been developing protocols that are specific to the COVID-19 situation, using the guidelines from the CDC and the state and other federal agencies. We're currently working on a reduced staffing plan. We have about 2 staff per park unit. And we're making plans for this weekend for Easter and addressing the potential crowding this weekend. We're also looking at gearing up staffing starting next week. As all of you know, we have a significant amount of workload related to weed abatement and fire prevention work that we do annually, and we're working to staff up for that need come the spring. We are gathering information daily and on weekends on a reporting basis, both photos and comments that we've been sharing with the board. I think that's helpful for all of you to get an idea of what's going on in parks. We do that in concert with the Public Safety Division. We have about 76% of our park operations staff are available currently for meeting needs of staffing in the parks, and we hope to bring more of those folks on as we move forward into the future. Also, I want to a shout out to our Naturalist staff, we're working to produce some online materials that'll be helpful for teachers and parents who are out there trying to continue the education of their students during the school closures. So we're working on that. And I think that's it for me for now. If you have any questions, I'm available.
AGM O'Connor, I'm sorry, I just didn't hear that percentage that you said we have available of staff currently to work in the parks. What was the percentage again?
We have about 76% of the park operations staff available.
Okay.
Other staff are called off for various reasons, including COVID-19 related issues.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And then we are now going to hear from Dr. Ana Alvarez and Kip Walsh with regard to our employees and safety.
Thank you, Director Corbett. Dr. Ana Alvarez, Deputy General Manager. As our General Manager has stated, the East Bay Regional Park District continues to deliver on its mission by keeping parks open to the public where appropriate, much to the credit of the many employees who are working out in the field, they're working remotely, or working from the public safety and administration headquarters. We are profoundly grateful for the selfless work by everyone under the challenging circumstances of the shelter-in-place public health order due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In public agencies, it needs to be reinforced that public health agencies specifically have called upon parks and open spaces as an essential resource for health and wellness, and we have certainly stepped up. As we do this important work, it is our highest priority to ensure that we also continue to focus on preventative measures to keep employees safe while at work. To make critical information readily available to them. And for that reason, we have created 5 different channels of communication. It should be noted that the Park District, at the very early onset of the public health event, even before the shelter-in-place order, we created and provided health advisories or COVID-19 advisories to our staff to make sure that they were keeping safe in conducting their work. In these new 5 tools or channels of communication, it should be noted that we have provided or made contact 55 different ways through those 5 different channels to make sure that our employees are receiving the latest information as it evolves and that they have access to the latest information as we are receiving it from the Public Health Department. In addition to that, the Park District has created 5 new tools and resources for our staff. That includes a COVID-19 intranet site that gives them access to the latest information, and the development of a labor task force at the request of the General Manager to focus exclusively on our employee safety while ensuring public access to parks, which proactively engages both organized laborers, which includes ACSME Local 2428, as well as the Police Association. We understand that this is an evolving situation, and for that reason, we continue to extend safety protocols, which are readily available to all of our employees. And those protocols include not only personal hygiene, but also protocols pertaining to sanitation of workstations and work locations, how to conduct payroll functions during these uncertain times, and also how to properly work remotely and continue to work out in the field while keeping the safety of our employees as a foremost priority. The Park District also released last week exposure protocols at the work site for managers and supervisors, which is a new tool that gives guidance and ability and pathways for supervisors and employees on how to report a potential exposure to COVID-19 at the work site. And all of this is done with the utmost consideration to the utmost consideration to employee safety. So we're taking a very precautionary approach and treating every potential exposure as if it was a COVID-19 exposure. All of that is being done in real time, and we encourage and continue to encourage our employees to make sure that they avail themselves of the resources to register to the Nixle account that we have provided to EBRPDO, to log into the COVID-19 intranet, to read the COVID-19 advisories, to read the messages that are going out from our general manager to EBRPDO, and also to avail themselves of all the additional outreach that has been done by the respective AGMs to their respective staff during these times of uncertainties. We cannot emphasize enough that it really takes the responsibility of the employee as much as the responsibility of the employer to follow the protocols to keep our most essential resource, our human resource, safe during these difficult times. Thank you, Director Corbett.
Thank you very much, Deputy AGM, or Deputy GM, sorry, I always get that wrong. Is Kip Walsh also presenting?
If Kip would like to add to the comments, yes, let's give her an opportunity.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Kip Walsh, your Chief Human Resources Officer. I don't have a lot to add. I think Dr. Alvarez did a fabulous job of sort of laying out the efforts we've made and the steps we've taken to try to provide as much information as promptly as possible to our workforce. I do also want to acknowledge, however, that we're 21 days into the shelter in place, and there's been, the Park District as a whole has had a huge challenge to face, as AGM Chiboro shared in terms of the emergency operations. And so the communication, the availability of information, et cetera, I think there's some impatience. I think folks are, you know, it's scary right now. This threat is very unnerving for all of us. And so anything that takes any time to develop or that requires a lot of thoughtful input can feel like an extended delay. And I've certainly heard from our labor groups and from employees directly that there's more information that they want and there's more information they hope we'll be providing. And I just want to assure you that we take those concerns very seriously, and we are working actively to address specific things as they come up beyond the broader protocols that we've now developed, beyond all the information channels we're providing, but to continue to address specific concerns as they arise. And I'll take any other comments offline. Thank you.
So, President Corbett, I'm sure there'll be some questions. There are just three very quick things. I wanted to also acknowledge the work of the staff in reservations. We have had over 1,000 cancellations and refunds. Refunds are now tracking in about almost $400,000, headed to $500,000 on refunds. So there's an economic impact, not only to the district, but there's also an economic impact to our concessionaires. AGM O'Connor has really been very concerned that we could actually lose business partners during this period because they really do operate on a shoestring. For-profit in the Park District is a misnomer for most of our concessionaires. They just are doing a great service and covering mostly their costs. So that's very important. We are also communicating regularly with the major park directors in the Bay Area. So although there's been references to park closures in many counties, there are also many of our local agencies who are not only continuing to keep their parks and trails open, are keeping their staging areas open, are keeping their bathrooms open and serviced as well. So we are trying to track that. Major cities like San Francisco are not only have their parks open, but have their restrooms open. Santa Clara County, a very large county park system, also has their parks open, their restroom serviced. Mid-Peninsula has theirs open. Santa Clara Open Space has theirs open. The initial closures were because of that original big surge of people wanting to go to the coast that first weekend. that inundated local communities in Sonoma and in Marin and now San Mateo, who were just traffic jammed all over the coast, and large groups of people were going to the beaches. That was a coordinated effort that I actually had with the Secretary of Resources of the state of California to coordinate how to address that and the state park issues of beaches being closed, but parks would still be open, but to reduce crowding, just like us, is to close certain very large picnic areas and staging areas. Finally, in our conversations with the health departments across the entire Bay Area, there is a great concern that the worst thing that could happen would be for more people to travel out of county to go to other areas to get out on a trail or a park or open space because their parks are not available. And so that balancing act has been extremely difficult, but it's been made very clear in the health orders and in our conversations that they prefer to have as many parks available to the public during this time as possible, but give us the authority to say, you know, we can't keep this crowd down and we may close those. So I think that's important, again, that we're working well with other park agencies and we're working with the health departments. We know this is a tremendous burden on staff and everyone else, especially the public too, who's having to be sheltered in place. And we want to appreciate the collaboration. We all have to work together. We really appreciate the help, and we really need the public's help to stay at home as best they can right now until things improve. And we need the staff's help to help us get through this. So that's my presentation, and I really appreciate it. I'm sure there's the time. I'm sure there's a lot of questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Manager, and we're going to open it up to comments and questions, but I did want to also, you know, add my thanks, and I'm sure the rest of the board will chime in to all of the work that is being done, extraordinary work during these very difficult times by every single one of our employees who are able to be at work, those that are home taking care of their families, and I just, you know, can't say more strongly, we really, at times like this, we really understand how great our park district is and how committed all of our employees are. And it really is, you know, it's a special thing that we have going here at the park district. So with that, I'll just open it up to comments and questions. I'm going to go in order to make sure everybody has an opportunity. We're going to go in the same order we've been going in. So Director Wieskamp, is there anything you would like to ask or add at this point? And please hit your mute.
Do you think we could get all the rest of the board members on the screen? I only see 4, please.
Oh, I see them all actually. So Harold, can you help us with that? Does that mean that Carol needs to sign out maybe? Can you see them all?
I have 20 pictures and only 4 board members.
Okay, I can see only board members and all of them at the moment.
So she may need to pin their video so that way she can see them all in the same window or same screen.
Harold, can you tell her how to do that?
So on their video, you can go to the 3 dots in the top right corner, Beverly, and then select pin video.
I don't see their names either. They're staff names, but I'm missing 3 board members entirely.
Okay, let's see.
No, she may. I think on some screens there's more than one page. So if you go back,
go to the next page. Yeah.
Yeah, you might be able to see us.
What about hiding the non-video participants?
Yeah, could you try that, Yolanda?
I can't find that on mine, Harold. I was looking for that.
Sorry, this is Brian Holt, Chief Planner. If you right-click on one of the sort of empty windows where there's not a video, you should have an option that says hide video participants. We'll take away anybody who's not on camera and just put up the board members.
So everybody that's, Brian, everybody that's the video is not up, click on them.
It should work for everybody. It just gives you an option to select hide all non-video participants.
Okay, I see it.
So Director Lane?
So there's a blue piece.
Yes.
Missing, we need to have Director Rosario. I see just the board members now.
Director Rosario is missing though.
Yeah. Let me see here.
Rosario.
Gallery view. I can only get 6 here.
It looks like Director Rosario is no longer on the meeting, so let me see.
Okay.
He probably got dropped. Let me give him a call.
So I can, this is Beverly, I can see 6.
Yes.
Yes. We'll have to get B back on the line. He's dropped, so they're going to put him back on.
Thank you, Brian.
All right. Director Wieskamp, do you have any comments or questions with regard to our report?
I certainly appreciate all the information staff has brought us. If restrooms are being kept open by other agencies, I'd like to know how they are doing it safely. Because obviously we want to be sure that if ours are open, they can be serviced safely by our employees. Do we have that information?
This is the general manager. Jim can respond to that too, but we are not recommending the restrooms be open until we are fully staffed to be able to provide that service. We are asking for additional guidance from the health agencies, but the number one issue that is for everywhere in the United States and beyond is getting the personal protection equipment that is needed beyond what we just have on gloves and things like that. So our highest priority with the EOC is to ask for help, but we also have to respect how difficult things are in the medical services areas that they're still having trouble. It will improve. There is more help coming and more equipment coming, but it's not like we can be first in line. But that's before we can address the restroom issue, we have to be able to have the equipment we need to assure with abundance of caution that we can safely do that. And so we will continue to work on that. We believe we can do the litter pickup and garbage pickup and mowing and things like that with the protocols that are in place.
How did you disconnect?
But the bathrooms will have to wait until we get more PPEs.
I agree with that. I just am amazed that other agencies are able to do it.
Okay.
But no, we've got to make sure it's safe.
Okay, but were you able to
I think the public really needs to have it highlighted. They're not open and why they're not open.
Okay, I'll stay on the phone with you to make sure.
Thank you, Director Wieskamp. Director Lane?
Thank you. As I listen to how we're managing this, it seems to me like it's more an art than a science. And things are changing so often. For myself, I want to encourage staff to keep the board as informed as often as possible. And but I do have a couple of questions. One is, we now have a certain number of staging areas closed. How are we going about making decisions on whether we will reopen parks?
Yeah, the meeting ID is 175.
Is there some system?
I will let Jim try to address that. I think what we are looking for is as the board knows, we're getting daily and weekly observations, and you will be receiving more frequent reports from the field on those observations of the staff of public safety and operations. But at this point, we are not addressing reopening until we get more staff, can deal with the garbage that's already piling up in the areas that are open and address some of those
Do
issues.
you know
But
if
I'll
you have
let Jim,
internet? Maybe
if he has
your
any
internet was
comments.
dropped.
Thank you, Jim Doyle. The only thing I would add is this issue of personal protective equipment. While some jurisdictions are moving ahead with restrooms, we feel like N95 mask is critical to the restroom issue. So right now, while all of that PPE is being diverted to healthcare workers as it should be, we're on hold on that matter, and we're also getting direction on the trash issue. So right now, once we work through those issues of managing trash and restrooms, I think keeping those parks that are already closed would be the best course of action. But once we get a better flow of PPE and we have that ability to use that for our staff or park cleaning purposes, then we can start to consider reopening parks.
Thank you. One additional one, and that is in reading our daily police dispatch, I do see that they're enforcing COVID-19 health issues. Are other crimes down, or what is the status of other crimes in the park?
Thank you, Director. I first really want to commend the police, fire, and lifeguards. They're really coming together under this event and doing excellent work, and I'm very proud to be their chief. I would say this, that there are other crimes that are taking place in the park. We've seen some slight increases in burglaries. We've seen activity along the hill parks, as we call them. We've seen some burglary activity there. And then I would say the other activity is what we discussed is weather dependent. And it seems that with the sunshine, our patron load increases and other things that go along with that, whether it be an off-leash dog, whether it be littering, whether it be other types of littering that are taking place, we will see that.
Director Lane, do you have additional questions or comments? Nope. All right, Director Coffey.
Thank you. Dr. Alvarez and General Manager Doyle emphasized that we are being told by county health departments and health officials generally to try to keep parks open. And I wanted to ask a couple of questions or responses to comments by either the General Manager or Dr. Alvarez in relation to what we are being told by county health departments. And what I'm wondering is whether they are actually monitoring what's happening out in the parks, because all of us on the board were seeing pictures. We're being told by Chief Triburo that some of our users are not following social distancing. I've been able, and many of my colleagues on the board have been able to make their own observations by going out to the parks. So I'm wondering what kind of feedback we get from the actual health departments and the health officials on what's going on day to day out in our parks. Do they see the same activities we are seeing? And after you answer that, it will feed a question that I have.
I would say that they are very, very busy, and they are not out in our parks, and they are relying on our own reports and staff and public comments that some of the health departments have actually been receiving public comments, such as Mission Peak people writing to the counties, but they are coordinating all the way, even with San Francisco Health Department, on these conversations with park directors. Their biggest issue is crowds. They are providing regular review and comment and warnings that this is, like I mentioned just a minute ago, that the real concern right now is people traveling out of their local areas. They really want us to encourage people to stay close to home because you can, obviously, that's an opportunity to spread the virus to other areas that aren't contained. So that's been their biggest concern. They're looking pretty big picture, obviously, because they're looking countywide at the rate of infection. They want us to be a part of helping people get out, but also bending the curve. They also have been very clear about what they see as what's needed in those parks. And particularly, they think a lot of what we're doing or could do is not a risk related to health for staff if they follow the protocols. And we have done some things conservatively, in our opinion, that they felt that's fine, but that's not a requirement. Particularly, I will say that originally we just did not, for two reasons, we did not do the garbage pickup. One was a concern for safety. The other was we just did not have the staffing in place to get the job done. On the safety, they felt very openly that with gloves, you should be fine. And they're more worried about the garbage overflowing. They're worried about the sanitation of bathrooms too. They actually recommended that we reopen the bathrooms if we can get them clean and staffed and get the personal protection equipment there. So they would like to see the bathrooms reopened, but they said, it's your call, it's your park system, and we want you to feel comfortable that you're doing the best you can to keep your staff and the public safe.
So the follow-up is, as you know, Bob, we're getting email and we're getting social media comments on both sides of that issue. The vast majority of input that I get from our public, either out in the parks or by social media or by email, is thank you very much, and thank you to the East Bay Regional Park District for keeping parks accessible. And then there's the group of emails that we get in social media that I read where they wonder, isn't it inherently contrary to the whole concept of shelter in place to keep your parks open? Why don't you close all these parks? Why don't you force people to shelter in place? And what you're doing is inherently unhealthy and will spread the virus. And some of my response was, if that was true, I would imagine that our public health officials that are overseeing what we do would tell us to close all the parks, but we're not hearing that. And I just wanted to know what your reaction was when you hear these arguments.
Well, my first concern, Director Coffey, is the safety of the staff and the public, obviously, but also remind people that we get paid for our core mission when other people are not having jobs. And so whatever we can do to provide that, we're doing our best. However, I think a really good example was the additional order by the 7 counties that came out last week, Thursday afternoon. Caught us by surprise to some degree because it came out pretty fast, and that was to close dog parks. Their opinion of, not just from the park district, but from other observations, was that too many people were going to the dog parks and being too social. And we originally said that keep the distance. That's why we asked people to put their dogs on a leash, because inherently dog walking with neighbors and friends and other dog parks is very social. And that was a very hard decision, but they asked us to close Point Isabel specifically because of the concern of crowding. Even though they're being told that no, people are behaving there and people were cooperating, the observation was not from somebody in the health department and from other anecdotal comments that it was too crowded. And that was across the 7 counties in the Bay Area to prohibit and reinforce that picnic areas should be closed, all the group activities. They were very concerned that the public wasn't taking it seriously enough, but they were not saying close all the parks. And again, what they're concerned about is people being shut in for so long that they're going to they're going to make do. They're going to figure it out, and they're going to go. And so what we've tried to do is strike a balance. It's certainly easier to be black or white.
Right.
And we have chosen, with the unanimous direction of the board, to do our best to keep parks available for people who are shut in with their families, with their loved ones, but we're trying to increase enforceability and adherence to those regulations. And everything we put out in our public comment says, if we can't get this better cooperation and more staff in the parks, we may have to close more parks. So stay tuned, because this is a dynamic, not a static situation for sure.
Thank you.
Director Rosario? Director Rosario, do you have any comments or questions on the report?
Yes. I just want to thank everyone in our organization from the bottom to the top. I think we're dealing with very unusual circumstances, and I think we're doing it as best we can. But at the same time, I think we're doing it very well. But one of my concerns is communication, and I think it's important for the board members to have participation in the ELC and the task force, if that is possible. And because both of those lines of communication are very important. And I think for me, I would like to hear what's being said, what's being developed out of both those operations, so that I know that if I go out in the field and ask somebody, did you know this and that, I want to know that information that's being developed at the ELC and the task force is getting down to the people at the bottom. And also, regarding that communication, Dr. Alvarez was talking about these new policies and protocols, and I want to know, how are we? Is there a system for accountability? Is there some kind of checkoff that people go online and are actually reading those? So is there a system of accountability? I see Jim wants to answer.
Director Rosario, we just completed a COVID-19 handbook on both public safety and operations side. The management team on operations and public safety now are going out. Well, I'll only speak for operations, but I've tasked all the managers to meet with staff, go over that manual with them, and then have them sign off that they've received it and have reviewed it. So we're in that process right now to ensure that we're getting good communication on those COVID-19 protocols.
Yeah, I think it's important that we know that everybody that's involved in those decisions is held accountable to reading that. So I think that's important. And then I was totally unaware of Nixle and SharePoint. So at some point, is the board going to give it made available to those as well?
Yes, Deputy Director, Deputy GM, sorry, Dr. Alvarez. Oh, you're on mute.
I'm fine, thank you, Director Rosario and Director Corbett. In the new resources that we have extended to staff, absolutely you can avail yourself of the COVID-19 intranet site that you should have access to in your computer or laptop that was issued by the district. The Nexel account that was also as a response of the early COVID-19 planning committee. And there's 3 accounts, and you can certainly register, and we can send you the information. They're primarily managed through, the majority of the accounts are managed through the police department, with the exception of the EBRPD All, which is open to every single employee and board members. which is managed through Human Resources. And we will give access to you to that.
Great. And then finally, as far as field operations and social distancing is, I was wondering, how are we dealing with, for instance, the fuel break and the SCA crews and the CCC crews? How are we making sure that those crews are maintaining their social distance?
Dr. Chibur, did you have your hand up?
Well, thank you. I was just going to comment a couple things. Number one, fuels work is still continuing. To be clear about that. The other thing is, I can tell you, for the fuels crew, we have them in separate vehicles and we have them maintaining distance. So we've added vehicles and also social distancing within the vehicles in terms of working with them to make sure they have a safe work site.
All right, thank you. AGM O'Connor.
Thank you, President Corbett. So we've reached out to both the CCC crews and the student SCA crews. The CCC crews are coming back online, and you actually have an item on the agenda today to approve funding for weed abatement support work for our field staff. And so we're working through the protocols for keeping them safe too when they come into the parks and are interfacing with our staff. So the state is back online. The Student Conservation Association has decided to stand down their crews until sometime in July. But we're still going to go forward with the funding item that you have on the agenda today in anticipation that they'll be coming back to the BARC district sometime in July. So we're working on the protocols, and we're hoping to get both those groups back in here to support our park staff, especially in this important weed abatement work.
Thank you, Jim. The GM had his hand up.
Yes, President Corbett, I think while Jim's up, I'd like to actually, and Chief Chavarro may want to respond to, we have been looking at the vehicle protocols as well, because obviously that's a major concern of people. So I'd like to have maybe Jim, and even, because that's being handled both in public safety through the fire department as well as operations through vehicle maintenance for the shop. So maybe Jim, start with that. I think that's a very important thing we haven't touched on today, is the cleaning and protocols for vehicles.
Jim?
Well, thank you, Jim Doyle. So we do have a protocol book, and we've published this out with the staff. And that includes cleaning the vehicles prior to use every day and then at the end of the day. One of the challenges, we had a conversation earlier about bringing staff back on. And we are trying to go one person in one vehicle. We are not sharing vehicles because there's not an opportunity for social distancing. So we're using a bleach solution, and there's a whole protocol about how to clean the vehicle and wipe it down before and after use. So we feel like that's in place, and we feel that's pretty, that's an important protocol for keeping staff out in the field today.
Tony?
Great. So just a lot of credit. I can't take any of this credit. This all goes to my command staff. But what we have in public safety now, starting with police officers, they are on a 7 on, 7 off schedule. So we actually have them isolated in their own car. So they take that car home if that works for them. That way we've bifurcated our patrol teams, and for 2 reasons. Number one, to prevent from getting ill. Number 2, if we have some type of illness, then we already have them separated. Pete DeQuincy and his lifeguard teams are busily filling bottles of, we are mixing a bleach solution. We also, Pete, really on the forefront of this, we have a video that went out, or still photos to show how to clean vehicles. So we've been doing that. Fire Station 1, if you go there to visit, you can't. So you can't go in. Even I can't go in there. That building is there by themselves. We understand that they have to travel in a fire engine together, and that crew is self-contained. So they do not mix with anyone, and they have special patient and public contact protocols. Finally, our communications division is very hard with them. No one can go in there for the exception of communications people. We've put many protocols in there, again, with the command staff, with Captain Breed, Captain Love, Manager Grishanik. They've worked very hard on making sure that they are locked down, and inside there, they are maintaining social distance. All those things are going on, including a very rigorous cleaning schedule.
Thank you. Does that answer the questions?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Director Rossby?
Thank you. Yeah, I want to thank the staff and all the workers from the top to the bottom, as did everyone else. It's an incredible job. I think these crises bring out the best in people, and I think when this is all over, I think we'll be looking really good in this, and I look forward to the end of this also. I have a couple of questions. I'm very thankful that there is a protocol book now. I'm very thankful that there are, as Dr. Alvarez said, we have ways or protocols on how to do our job safely, how to keep from exposures, and just protocols for doing things. And I'm very happy that that's being done. I hope that I can be included in that, and other board members can be included, because we get lots of questions. And the only thing I would suggest, and I agree with Director Rosario, I think when you do have a situation like this where it's a big district, things we talk about are changing daily in real time. It's a scary situation. I just, for some reason, I don't. Well, I would hope that we would reconsider having board members, I don't know how many, but some, to be involved in the task force and the EOC. I'm not suggesting that we have a position or just to observe, to know what's going on, and also the union. I don't think that's a bad thing. The incident command system, which I think is a tremendous system, it works in some of the craziest emergencies throughout the world, and it's used worldwide. They always have an incident action plan every day, and that's sent out to everybody from the top to the bottom. If you send people out on a fire from way out of county where they've never been before, and decisions are being made in a command post, I understand that completely, but there's always a daily incident action report, I think it's called, and it's sent out to the smallest and lowest person on the totem pole, so they know what the objective is, what's going on, what the status is. It alleviates all of the worry, the concern, all of the actual things that we're all experiencing. It kind of takes the edge off that, gives an objective of what's going on and how to do it, and how to do it safely. So I would hope we could do that. And it's funny, when I would go to out of county calls, and we would call in different firefighters from throughout the state, there would always be a liaison position, excuse me. And this liaison person was generally the fire chief from the old Podunk town we were working in. If you're out in the country, out in the San Diego mountains, you would always get that local fire chief, because they have the experience, they know what's going on. They have much more experience than the people that just showed up to put out the fire. I think the union could be those people on the ground, or that liaison, or that local fire chief that could tell us exactly what's happening, and I think they should be included. And they don't need to be in a position of making decisions, but I think their judgments and their observations of what's really going on is very, very important. That's just my editorializing. But the one question I do have, and I hope somebody can answer this, is we keep talking about the need for PPE, and we don't want to send anybody out to do anything dangerous or where they would be exposed. Do we have the proper personal protective equipment for fire, police, and park staffs? And can anybody answer that?
So thank you, Director, for your comments. Yes, for the Public Safety Division, we have all the PPE and we've been working on that. We continue, as the situation evolves, we continue to assess more and more to ensure that we have the proper PPE for park operations as the requirements change. And then from that point, I can turn it over to AGM O'Connor. And that's, I was actually on the phone this morning, 3 different phone calls to make sure that we continue to move in that direction.
Great, thank you.
And just to add into that, what we've created through our logistics group in the EOC are kits for anybody responding to an EMS incident where there may be a potential COVID-19 exposure. So all of our staff, both on public safety and operations that have the potential to respond to such a situation, have been issued those kits at this point. The shortage of PPE at this point is really related to doing non-emergency response type of situations. So that's where we're challenged and working to alleviate that challenge. I also wanted to respond, Director Waspy, to your comment about the protocols manual. That is on the SharePoint site, and all of you should have the icon on your desktop for your laptops now, and you can access that manual on the SharePoint site. It's available to everybody who has access to the SharePoint site.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Eccles.
Well, thanks everybody for your excellent comments, and thank you also to all of the staff throughout the agency. I know you're all working incredibly hard, and be an observer. If they hear something that doesn't sound quite right, they can say, okay, this is this is our perspective. This is why that might not work. But then if the various people in the EOC don't agree, you don't have to take it up there. It doesn't have to get bogged down. I know that East Bay Mud and others are doing that. So that's something I think we should strongly consider in the interest of making sure that everybody is heard and in these important decisions that are being made. I also strongly agree with Director Waspy, who was saying that we really, to have that daily incident action plan. I think that's important too. That there should be, if there isn't already, a daily communication going out to everybody in the organization, from at all levels. I can't say everybody enough, so that everyone is hearing the same thing at the same time and knows what the latest protocols are, because this whole situation is evolving very quickly and there is a lot of fear, understandably. So I think that's also incredibly important. I particularly want to make sure that various safety concerns from the people out in the field and other parts of the organization are being heard and addressed, and that people aren't afraid to raise those concerns. So there may be opportunities to, I understand that Chief Tiley is the safety officer for the EOC, and perhaps there's an opportunity to provide communications directly to her, either anonymously or not. And I won't take credit for that idea, because actually someone else's idea, but I think it's a good one, so I'm repeating it here. So those are some of the things I think in terms of communication that are really important. I also think it would make sense. A couple of the directors have said it would make sense for the EOC and task force to have board members as observers. I think that definitely makes sense as well from my perspective. And then a couple of other things I just wanted to mention. On the PPE, we've a number of people have talked about that and how it's so difficult to obtain. And I would like to know, and maybe this doesn't have to be answered today, but from what I understand, in different field offices, there's different amounts of PPE, and some people have already run out. And so is there some type of process in place to make sure that there's a really good handle on who has what inventory, and does everybody have what they need to be safe on the job? I mean, even if they're not cleaning bathrooms, which I don't think they should be doing, do they have the PPE that they need to conduct their job safely? So that's something that, you know, I guess maybe I should pause there and let people answer some of my questions.
So Director, thank you for that question. So that is a constant topic in the EOC. We're constantly asking questions. We're constantly talking about planning, working with logistics to make sure there is enough PPE in the field. We are strongly encouraging the people in the field to utilize their chain of command, let people know right away if they don't have something that they need. I can tell you that I'm sure it's done all over the district. I personally will call people randomly in my division and just say, do you have everything you need? It's a constant question, and they're used to it now. The chief calls, do you have what you need? And that's what I ask them, and we're working very diligently on that. And really, it goes two ways in terms of communication. We are doing our best to push things out, but we do want to hear if somebody doesn't have something that should go right up their chain of command, whether it's police, fire, lifeguards, or operations.
AGM O'Connor?
And another thing we're trying to do, Director Eccles, is we're also leveraging our participation in the county level EOCs in this regard also. So we're trying to leverage those connections we have outside of our own agency to see if we can help with that issue. The most important thing is we do have an inventory. We're keeping contact with that. And we're also ensuring that we prioritize any of our staff that are acting as first responders to those situations where they may be directly exposed to COVID-19. So that's our number one priority when it comes to PPE.
Okay, and then, well, thank you for those responses. Finally, I just wanted to also, while I have the floor, say that, you know, the board last time came out very strongly in support of paid leave for those folks who are sent home for whatever reason because of COVID-19. And so I just want to reiterate my support for that. You know, we really need to take care of the people who are taking care of the parks and the whole park district. And so, you know, I know this will be a discussion for later, but I just wanted to say that as well, that I continue to support ongoing paid leave for our staff as appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Eccles. I have a few things on my list too. I want to just say I agree with all of the great comments and suggestions that the board is presenting to our management. I think it's all been extremely thoughtful, and it's pretty obvious that the board is digging in and doing what they can to try to be helpful under these circumstances. So thank you to all of you for doing your homework and participating so closely in what's happening. I just want to say I appreciate that. I'll start with communications. I think it is, I don't want to pound on this too much more, but it is clear that people are concerned about communications and knowing what's going on a day-to-day basis. I think that's why we are hearing from the staff. So I think we've been doing a pretty good job on external communications and getting the message out about park closures and park usage and those sorts of things. But our internal communications, I think many board members have mentioned it. We could work on that. And it's not for lack of people working so tirelessly and so hard. I'm not complaining about that at all. I'm just saying, you know, working on the communications piece, I think is very, very important in times like this. You know, some of the things I've been hearing is that people in the field, it's not necessarily, the information doesn't necessarily get to them as quickly or as directly. So I don't know, and again, I don't mean to be critical, but I don't know if there's some delay because things are going out to the parks and the regions, and then they take another day or so to get to to the staff on the ground. So if we could work on that. It does sound, based on Kip and Anna's report, that that there are many, many avenues that are being developed and that are available to our staff. And we want to just make sure that all the staff gets the word about all these channels as well. So thank you for your work in developing those channels and making sure all of our staff are knowledgeable about those channels and know how to get the information that they need. I do wonder whether the OEC, I'm assuming the OEC, Dennis spoke about this a little bit, I'm assuming the OEC provides some sort of report each and every day after their meeting. I'm wondering if that can be circulated more widely to everyone, so everybody is kind of, you know, so everybody is informed. I think this incident that we're dealing with is maybe a little bit different than other incidents. I mean, if people are responding to an incident like a fire, it's localized in an area. But this incident involves each and every single one of our staff who are in all of the parks, and the incident is literally contact with the public. That is the incident, and to try to keep people safe in their contacts with the public. So I'm hoping that the EOC reports can go out more broadly. That's just a suggestion, and maybe somebody can speak to that. I also totally support the idea, and I'll come up for a breath in just a second, Tony. I totally support the idea of having an observer at the EOC, not someone who's directing the EOC. You know, there are lines of command in the EOC, but to have the ability to have an observer from the board and from our, you know, our frontline people, I think that we should absolutely consider that. That will help with our internal communications, and I do think our staff has something to offer because they are on the ground. Other directors have spoken to that, so I think that that's extremely important. I do want to mention that in a conversation I had with the GM just before the meeting, he is recommending that there be 2 board members appointed to the task force upon the recommendation of those working with the task force. And so as we're sitting here today, people, if you want to think about who might want to be involved, my initial reaction would be that the president and vice president serve in that role, but totally open to hearing people if you have a strong interest in being part of that. But I do want to thank the GM for recommending that. I think that that will be a great thing for our internal, our internal communications with the board. Let me just see. Okay. Also, one more thing, and then I'll stop and ask Chief Chiruburo, maybe he can speak to my EOC questions. I understand that there is training ongoing on contacts, safe contact training, and I'd like to just hear a little bit more about that, what we are doing with our staff in the field. I did hear you talk about the protocols for the cleaning the vehicles and those sorts of things, but also contact in emergency situations, and even, I mean, obviously our staff's probably having non-emergency contacts with our public as well. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. Chief Chiruburo.
Thank you, Director. So the incident, the protocols, we call them the IAPs, the incident action plans. Thanks to Kip Walsh and Allie Adams, those are on the SharePoint. They have those now, so those are fully accessible to anyone in the district. So they've worked very hard to have those accessible. And one thing I would say is that we are working very diligently. Not only as the incident evolves, but we get better and better through the incident. And that's something that we are working on. And so that information is now available. The next thing I would say in terms of protocols, I spoke of that, for example, with the fire department. They have worked on specific approach protocols to limit exposure. So if there are 3 of them there, maybe one of them will take the lead. Usually it's a 3 or 4 person complement on the engine. So they have specific protocols. Public safety has specific protocols for approach. They have, as we've talked about, everyone has equipment assigned to them, and they have been given protocol after protocol. The books that we're talking about are actually a compilation of several of the protocols that have gone out. So we've put those together so people have access to those, and that's as well as public safety and in operations, so people have that to keep them going in terms of how they're supposed to interact. And then things keep at times get more and more, they're changing. So now the latest thing we're evaluating is, should everyone be wearing a mask, a breathing mask? So yes, we are working more and more to make sure that we're not only better, that we're communicating better, and that we are ensuring for employee safety, which is number one.
Thank you very much. Jim?
In addition to what Chief Shearborough just said, on another aspect, we're also asked the management team, the entire management team of the district, to get out into parks and do some observations and checking in with staff without going into their facilities and exposing them any further. So we've asked them to get out. So we're getting a lot of feedback on what people are seeing, and also just touching base with staff and checking in with them and seeing how they're doing. So that's another aspect of communication that we've been trying to manage also for the last about 3 weeks or so.
Okay. Thank you very much. Did anybody answer the issue that Director Waspy brought up about incident reports, or whatever it's called, incident command reports, the daily reports, the report outs?
So he was asking about the yes, those are what is now available on SharePoint. Those are,
thank you. Thank you. That answers it. Okay. I don't know if the GM can address this, but obviously we're providing a very important service by keeping our parks open at this time, and the health department has asked us to try to balance, really balance the safety with the openness of our parks. And I just wonder, as they sort of, of course they don't command us, but they very strongly encourage us to keep our parks open and available, are we receiving any additional support from the health departments to monitor the situation, whether contacts are safe, whether our employees should be having additional or availability to testing, the whole issue of restroom facilities? I absolutely agree that they can't be opened if we don't have the PPEs. I'm very concerned about our staff safety with regard to that. But the health department, who is sort of asking us to balance keeping parks open, but at the same time, don't let people have contacts, it's almost, almost impossible to balance both of those in a way. But so how are the health departments assisting us in this, ask of us to keep the parks open? Other facilities are closed, but parks are open at their sort of urging. So what assistance are they providing, Bob?
I think that I think we've discussed a lot of that today, what their direction is. It is this board's unanimous decision to keep the parks open. So if this board changes their mind, that's the board's decision. Our service to the public is to try to keep our parks for public use and mental and physical health. We know that's important. What the health departments have and are offering in a consortium with the other counties is some training directives, videos from them, not from us. And our HR department, Alice Kinner in that department, is working with them, as is other staff, to get those protocols in place and get that training videos in place. The health departments are training a lot. I mean, whole garbage department, garbage companies are still picking up the garbage and, doing that. So they're providing protocols and training that way throughout all the industries, including restroom cleaning and Costco's and Walmarts and things like that, and people who are working in lots and lots of jobs that come in contact with the people and come in contact with potential pathogens that they would hit doing their job. So they're doing all that on a broad scale across many, many companies and industries, small business, large, and et cetera. And from Contra Costa County, it was made very clear to us that all the employees in Contra Costa counties have to be available for essential services. So they even suggested that if we need more help and we can't do what we need to do, that the county administrators made it clear that they could get assigned anywhere in the county. We actually have had offers of help from the Sheriff's Department, which Tony has worked on with our PA to provide additional patrols of the public roads within the parks, as obviously Tilden Park is a public road right through it, as are many of the other parks we have. So they're being very helpful, but it really is up to the district to make the decisions on their policies. What they're doing is giving guidance, and they're giving, they will go as far as like, you need to close these areas across the board because dog parks are too crowded, as an example. So I think they're doing that, but they're relying on the agency who manages whatever they're managing to do their monitoring. But they're very available, and we are working. In fact, I think by the end of the week or beginning of next week, there's going to be a Bay Area effort on training and protocols for park agencies. And that's also in conjunction with assistance from the Bay Area Open Space Council, who's working with all the other park agencies as well. And I probably will be on another phone conference call with the directors from around the Bay Area. But as far as relying on them to do the observations, that's really got to come from our EOC and from the district.
Okay. Well, I guess my suggestion would be, in light of what you just said, is that since they're asking us to do more during these difficult times, because more people are going to our parks, that perhaps they should be helpful with resources, and maybe they are helping us with our goal towards receiving more PPE. Maybe there's other ways they can assist us with resources since they're asking us to do more. That's my suggestion.
We did make that request, and I have to be candid from just my perspective. It's kind of, yes, maybe we can help with that. We will try to help with that. Bring that up when you speak to the county EOCs, which we are, and that message has been delivered. But it's also, if the material's not there, it's not there. So it's going to get better, but this is certainly a challenging time. As I think Chief Chaburo pointed out, we're improving every day on our own level. We're putting out a lot more communication than we ever have in the history of the Park District, both public and internally. But we have to get better at this. We've never done it before. And hopefully there'll be no wild animal attacks in the middle of everything we're doing, because we're still running a large natural resource agency in addition to dealing with all the operational challenges.
Okay, thank you, Bob. And then my last thing, I have additional, but I just will add one more thing. I very much appreciate everybody's efforts to make sure that our employees are safe and that we are continuing to support them and ensure that they're paid during these difficult times. I very much support that we continue doing that. I do understand there's discussions with regard to our part-time and seasonal employees, and I would like to encourage that we do whatever we can to also be helpful and supportive of them during these times too. And they do very important work as well, and I think we need them right now too. Director Rosario?
I just wanted to, would this be the appropriate time to talk about Easter Sunday?
I would guess so, yes. Would you like to make some comments about Easter Sunday? Director Rosario, you're off the mic.
Well, yeah, there we go. Well, we know Easter Sunday is typically our busiest holiday of the year. Draws the most visitation, and there are concerns that we will be overrun. And I think that needs to be we need to have an open discussion whether we keep parks open that day or close them, or do a partial list. So I would like to hear how the other directors feel.
And I just want to make a comment real quick for the public as well. Maybe this is the announcement, or we'll be announcing a little later in the meeting. We are going to be having an additional special meeting of the board this Thursday. And so we will be posting that. And because we do have many issues that have been raised today that continue to need a little more discussion and attention. So there will be a special meeting where we may have the opportunity to get some of those questions answered, and also more information with regard to Easter Sunday. But Director Rosario has asked if other board members have some thoughts about about Easter Sunday and operations with regard to that. Should we hear from the GM quickly first on that?
The general manager's comments is we do know that that's a very popular holiday district-wide. We also know that it's been raining, and so it appears to be good weather this weekend. It's a beautiful spring. My concern would be whatever the board directions is on this, that we actually have the capabilities of implementing it. I'm very concerned that we can put out a forceful comment to close everything in the district, and we're not going to have the resources to enforce that. And that's certainly going to be a concern. So I think whatever the direction is from the board, give the operational and public safety staff a chance to, through the EOC as one option, to discuss how we do that and what we can do. It's always been the concern of myself as a general manager that we promise and keep our promises when we make them. And I really don't know at this point, with the staffing levels and with the amount of interest in people getting outside, being stuck in this whole last week and the week before, how we manage that difficult chore. There's just no question. It is a big issue. And it's an issue that we have to, I think, step to carefully, but I share the concerns. I don't have all the answers.
Thank you. Would any board member, I'm going to recommend that we ask the GM and of course, operations, EOC, all of our folks who are working on these issues to report back to us for Tuesday's meeting. But Director Rosario has asked if any other board members have any comments with regard to this. Would anybody else like to weigh in before we leave this issue? Director Waspi?
I'll hesitantly weigh in because I haven't had a lot of time to think about it a lot. I know it will be a difficult problem, but the examples I've been mentioned or talked to about are 1 Kennedy Grove, Guerin, possibly Lake Chabot. And I know that's not all of them, but it's the only ones I've thought about or been alerted to. I think at some point, I personally think we should leave it open. I think we should have some messaging, continue our messaging. This is not for an Easter egg hunt. This is not for a picnic, an Easter picnic. This is for you to get out and walk with your family or yourself or whomever. And you've got choke points at each one of those 3 parks. Somebody has to go through a gate. Generally, we have a kiosk attendant there telling them. I think we could easily use law enforcement people and say, I think you can identify people. If 17 people come in a truck or a car or a caravan of people come, tell each one of them as they come into the park, this is for hiking only. You cannot picnic here. And then have somebody in the parking lot, people unloading coolers and barbecue pits, then that's illegal. Tell them they can't do that and they must leave. If the parking lot fills, close the gate like we do every Easter, like we do every 4th of July, like we do every Memorial Day and Labor Day. Close it off at that point. Then you've legitimately closed the park based on a safety issue of overcrowding, which we do every holiday. And I think we can continue to do that. And I think a police officer could safely do that. They could do that within their car. I watched, interestingly enough, it was kind of funny. I sat with a police officer at Lake Chabot Park when people didn't know that the parking was free. And they'd come into Lake Chabot, there was nobody in the kiosk. They'd go right past the Ventec machine, the Iron Ranger where you would pay when no one's there. They went right past us. They looked to their left, saw the police officer I was talking to, and it was hilarious how they would have to try to get in reverse and back up and try to pay. And I think the presence of a police officer is enough, and the information that you cannot picnic here, you cannot have an Easter egg hunt here, is enough. And if it's not, I really think it was brought up. Mutual aid, we're the only game in town. Why isn't the Alameda County Sheriff's Department offering mutual aid? We do this all the time. We share our resources. We share the helicopter with them all the time. They could be parked with one officer in front of Lake Chabot, one in front of Don Castro. I'm only talking Alameda County Sheriff. I'm sure we could get mutual aid agreements with everybody else. I think we can do this. And if we don't, we won't have it. It's the biggest day of the year. We went through it.
Thank you, Director Waspi. I would just comment that I think we just have to be mindful. We're not at full staff. We have people working lots of extra hours. We can ask all kinds of things of our staff, but we have to seriously consider, whether we have the staff to cover all these extra responsibilities that we may have to give them under this scenario. So I just think we should hear all the different sides and impacts. And I do definitely look forward to hearing more from our operations folks and our public safety folks coming up at this meeting. And, I think, again, the whole idea is, we're being asked to keep our parks open, but we're also being asked to have less contacts. And the more contacts our public safety has with the public, that's more contacts too, as they try to enforce social distancing and reinforce social distancing. So I think we just have to think of all those things and try to do the best we can to, provide a resource, but also do it realistically and safely. And, I think we really need to ask our staff to sort of crunch some numbers and figure out, what sort of resources we have to deal with what we know will be very large crowds on Sunday. I mean, that's something we know, right? So, we have this terrible, terrible dilemma. People love us and want to be at our parks, but we also have to take a look at, what we can do operationally. Mr. GM?
Yes, I just want to remind the board that the obvious is that the order to close all picnic areas has been in place now for over a week. And the staff has done a tremendous job of signing those areas as closed. So I just, as a technicality, whether it's resource available or not, the staff has already closed all picnic areas by the last order of the health agencies. So anybody picnicking is already in violation of those closed areas. It's not a new order. It's because of Easter. It's that all picnic areas are closed. Any group or facility area is closed. So it's the enforceability of those actions. Yes, there are some places where people will climb the fence or the gate or hop over a barricade and get in, and that's an enforcement resource issue as well. But just a reminder that a lot of the picnic areas are closed, and we can look at a plan, if the board so directs, to see what else we can tighten up and close specific areas more. And that's been my direction, and my goal is to incrementally address these issues as they come up. And it's not a snap decision. It's not an easy decision, but The board's direction was to keep the parks open. The original direction was to keep them all open. And what we have done is carefully analyze the impact, the crowds, the social distancing, and been very clear to the public that we will incrementally, either by order of health agencies or our own board's direction, close additional areas if deemed unsafe or untenable.
Bob, on the issue of external communications, at the very least, we probably should make sure we beef those up before Sunday. I know you'll be coming back to us with a recommendation Thursday, but beefing up that message is extremely important. And, you know, the O'Connell PSAs were very good and got the message out there. So I don't know if we have the resources to do some more of that, but I'll just add that to the mix.
Absolutely, we do. I'm very confident in our public affairs being able to get the message out. I'm getting called every day by different, different papers. What's the latest? And I think we have that ability. It's what happened if, frankly, lack of a choice of words is a stampede. And that's what staff's worried about. Basically, what happened, 2 weekends ago, where just everybody decided they were going to go out to everywhere. And what's interesting, frankly, socially, is it happened across the nation. It wasn't a California thing. It wasn't a coastal thing. It was in Kentucky. It was in Chicago. Everywhere across the nation, people went out to every one of the parks. So I was looking at it as if it was our problem or a Bay Area problem or a California problem on this crowding, and it was across the nation. So it still perplexes me, but we know how important parks are to people in their lives. So we're trying to do our best.
Director Lane, thank you, Bob.
Well, thank you so much for this discussion. Easter is such an important day to families. For me, I would really like to see us manage to have it open and ask that the staff apply their intelligence and their mutual aid, which I think is a very good idea, to help make it happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Lane. Any other comments before we move on to the next item? Any additional comments from Chief Chiruburo or AGM O'Connor, or you would like to save those till our next meeting, or everybody's good? All right. General, oh, sorry. Yes, I see her. Director, yes, I see her. General Counsel Victor, you're muted.
Am I still muted?
Not now.
Okay. Hi, Carol Victor, District Counsel. I was just going to state for the record, and as you did, President Corbett, that we are going to put this item on the agenda on Thursday. And so if members of the public do want to submit comments, they'll certainly have an opportunity.
All right, thank you. And are we able to announce the time of the meeting at this point?
So not 100%, but the open session should be around 12 noon.
Okay, thank you so very much. On this upcoming Thursday.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Everybody check our website for our postings and our agenda and your opportunities to also weigh in with public comments and directions on how we'll be offering that. All right. If there's nothing else on this issue, thank you very, very much for all of the amazing work everybody is doing. And thank you for the very, very thorough report to be continued. And if anyone is interested in serving, I think there's further discussion about whether there's going to be observers at the EOC, but if anybody is interested in serving on the task force, please just let me know offline. Like I said, my recommendation is the president and the vice president, but I'm glad to hear from anybody else who's really interested. Maybe we can rotate it or whatever. Anyway, just let me know. And with that, let's go to our next item, which is consent calendar. Members, is there any item on the consent calendar anybody would like to remove? Yes, Madam Clerk?
Would you like me to go through each of the items?
Yes. Can you give us a list of items that members have asked questions or would like to remove?
Yes. And for the record, I believe I should probably read the actual report, the title.
Yes, please.
Yes. Item C, authorization to negotiate with various property owners. Director Rosario. Item D, approved special use agreement, City of Fremont's operation of Patterson House, Ardenwood Historic Farm. Director Rosario. Item E, authorization to execute a contract for youth employment services with California Conservation Corps for 2020, district-wide. Item F.
Is that Rosario also?
No, item F is Director Lane.
E, but who is E?
Oh, excuse me, Director Rosario.
Thank you.
Item F is Director Lane, authorization to execute.
Item F, I was answered, so I don't need to remember.
Okay. Item G, Director Rosario, authorization to approve and adopt an amendment to the East Bay Regional Park District salary schedule to implement the newly adopted classifications of legislative and policy management analyst and chief of government and legislative affairs as authorized in the 2020 budget. Now, that was responded to, but it was Director Rosario and Director Lane.
That's item G?
Item G.
For Lane, the response was fine.
And Rosario? Yeah.
Rosario, did you see the response on that item? Director
G or
G.
Do you still want to report on G, or did you get your questions answered on G?
On G, I got my questions answered.
Okay, thank you.
Item H, again, was Director Rosario and Director Lane. Authorization to approve and adopt an amendment to the East Bay Regional Park District salary schedule as of March 28, 2020 to conform with a 2.5% cost of living increase for certain employees previously approved by the Board of Directors. Item I, Director Lane, authorization to purchase Cisco Flex Plan subscription agreement contract for voice services AMS.net. That wasn't yours? Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Director Rosario, authorization to approve funds and execute a contract with Belfour Property Restoration Incorporated to repair infirmary fire damage Camp Arroyo. Item K, Director Rosario, authorization to accept and approve.
I got those answers question. I got those.
You got J and K answered?
K has been answered, and so has L.
And L, okay, we'll skip that.
But J, you still have a question?
J, I still have a question.
Okay.
Okay. Item N, Director Lane, did you have your question answered on that?
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay. Item P, Director Corbett, you did receive an answer. Was that sufficient, or do you want more?
I'll just have one quick comment on that.
So let me read it for the record. Item P, authorization to apply for federal grant funds for public access improvements at Martin Luther King Jr. Regional Shoreline. And that's it for the consent calendar. But I will go back, Director Rosario, item C, D, E, and G. C, D, and E. There were responses. Did you have an opportunity to read them?
On item C, my questions got answered. On D, regarding the City of Fremont operation, I was curious as to how our current crisis with the COVID-19 is going to affect the MOU and the operation of that facility.
That was AGM O'Connor, but perhaps you didn't see it.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Okay.
Can we have a quick response on that?
This is AGM O'Connor. We've reached out to the City of Fremont staff. Their temporary staff have been furloughed, as we have in the Park District. The full-time staff are still working. We do pay annually to the tune of about $85,000 for them to provide public services, tours, and also to maintain this historic residence. So at this point, we've not made any decisions about changes in the funding or in the operation, other than the fact that the facility is closed, as is the entire Ardenwood Historic Farm Park.
Okay. Thank you, Beck.
And item E, you also did receive a response, but you might not have seen it.
For E?
Yes, sir.
I did not, but it got answered during our discussion, our previous discussion, so we can cross that one off.
Okay. So item H?
Item H, in the last sentence under background, it says there's I think there's a date change that we need to make. And it's because it states April 7th, and it's the last sentence. It says salary recommendations for seasonal classifications adjustments will be brought before the board of directors on April 7th. Today's April 7th. So I would think that date needs to be changed to either the 14th or May. Am I correct?
This is Kip, your Chief Human Resources Officer. You're correct that that's an error. We'll be bringing that forward later. Thank you.
Okay, great. That's what I thought.
Does that require the correction of a resolution? The wording of a resolution that needs to be signed?
Yes, it's
not in the resolution, but it is in the it's in the background.
So the resolution is okay?
Yes, the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on H, Director Lane? Okay, we're done with H. Okay, J.
It was mine as well. On J, I'm just wondering how, because this was an emergency, and is the Taylor Foundation rescheduled that program for after this construction, or is their program pretty much on hold like everyone else?
This is AGM O'Connor again. Director Rosario, we have had conversations with the Taylor Family Foundation, and they have made the decision to suspend their programs for this summer and restart up in the summer of 2021. As you know, many of their campers are medically fragile, and they feel that this is the best course of action. We're working with UCCR in filling some of the spaces once the shelter-in-place is lifted.
So would this construction still be considered an emergency?
Jim, I can jump in if you'd like. Director Rosario, this is Jeff Rasmussen, Assistant Finance Officer. This work was done under emergency contract, as the board material says, and we were about halfway through the work when the shelter-in-place occurred, so we have suspended this work. So we still need the board's authorization of the funding and the contract, but the work is suspended until shelter-in-place is over.
Okay, great, thank you.
So the work will just continue after the shelter-in-place, and the money is set aside in the meantime? Is that what we're doing?
Yes, we need to appropriate the money and authorize the contract. The general manager had to enter into the contract prior to the board's approval because it wasn't an emergency at the time, but things have changed. So with the board's approval, we'll have the money and the contract approved, and we'll resume once the event's over.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
For that.
All right. And the last item is P, Madam Clerk. My only comment is I did have the opportunity to review the answer, and I had looked at the maps that are part of the packet. I'd just like to have a further conversation with the planning crew. You know, we talk about public access for this particular park, the Tidewater, Martin Luther King area, and we typically talk about public access, including making access more available to the neighborhoods in the area, the East Oakland neighborhoods that happen to be across a huge barrier of a freeway. So I just like to have a little further conversation. I am aware of the public access, the improvements of the park, the Bay Trail access, but I really want to talk a little bit more in detail in the future, not right now, but in the future about what public access for those neighborhoods really means if we are in fact requesting funding for public access. So I would defer that to an opportunity to speak about this further with staff as we move forward on this application and our future plans for that area. And that's it. Otherwise, I'm okay with it. All right. A motion on the consent calendar is in order. Who would like to make that motion? Raise your hand.
So moved.
Moved by Director Rosario and seconded by Director Lane. All those in favor, please, or excuse me, I think I have to do a roll call because we're on the radio here. So, Director Wieskamp. I did not hear you, Director Wieskamp. I'm so sorry.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Lane?
Aye.
Director Coffey?
Aye.
Director Rosario?
Aye.
Director Waspy?
Aye.
Director Eccles?
Aye.
Corbett, aye. Unanimous, unanimous approval of the consent calendar. Thank you all very much. I do need to ask our clerk for a moment. Can we take a quick break under this format? A quick break? Okay. All right, everybody, leave your devices on. You can mute your voices and mute your picture. And those of you who are listening to our meeting, we apologize, but we're just going to take a quick 7-minute break. Does that give everybody enough time? Okay, 7 minutes, and we need to be back on track for our public who is waiting for us. All right, thank you all very much. Don't turn your thing off, except your pictures and your sound, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
I think all staff that was on the consent calendar can leave now as well if they don't have a further presentation.
I think you're on mute.
Jim, are you still there?
I am.
Are we off the air?
I think we're still on the YouTube audio feed.
Are we? Okay.
You're very much on the air.
Thank you.
And Dennis is on video. Great job. You and Beverly have great, it looks like your rooms are connected.
I don't think the general manager saw that, Director Waspy.
Hey, Bob.
We're on the air.
We are?
Yes, we're on the air.
Yes, this is on the YouTube right now. Just verifying.
Yeah.
We're on the audio.
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
Board members, 7 minutes have arrived.
7 minutes up, huh?
7 minutes.
We're coming.
Just as a reminder, while you're on break, you're still streaming live on YouTube.
Yes, our audio is live.
Okay. My first birthday cookie.
Is it today the actual day?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Happy birthday, Dee.
Thank you.
I think we may have to sing you happy birthday.
I'm sorry we don't have a cake for you today.
A virtual cake.
That's all right. Robin's making a huge batch of chocolate chip cookies.
And it is a requirement for board members to share.
In order to go, you have a drive-up window. Oh no, please pass the cookies.
It was good.
Happy birthday, Dee. We're waiting for a couple more board members. And then we will start right back up again. Again, those of you in the public, thank you so very much for your patience.
So in back of me is Stephen Joseph picture from.
Nice job, Jim. I do want to ask a question about where signage is posted and whether it's posted obviously on top of trash cans or where trash cans were.
Most of the signage is in places where people are entering parks, so it's clear as they're entering park.
Director Corbett?
Yes.
This is Christina. I would like to have Lisa just put up the first slide of her PowerPoint to test the technology and just make sure it's working.
Yes, please do. We're waiting for one more director. Go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you.
We're going to wait for one more board member, but go ahead and put the picture.
That's good. It could be a little bit larger.
Okay.
I have the menu bar across the top.
It's going to be so nice.
Is that better?
Yes, that is larger. It doesn't fill whole screen, but it's larger.
Lisa, if you shrink the video off to the right, the video pictures, you use the you hover over and it says hide thumbnails video. That may also that may show a larger screen.
Don't we all have it memorized by now?
Board members, I'm going to take a quick roll call.
Is that better, Jim?
No, it must only work on our individual screens. So if everybody wanted to see the full slide, they just have to hover over there and reduce. So it says hide thumbnail video. That would give you the full screen from Lisa's computer.
Jim, I'm going to pass over the control to you now.
Okay, board members, we are ready for our next item on the agenda. Madam Clerk, are you there? Madam Clerk, are you back?
Okay.
Madam Clerk, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Could you call
Yes, I'm here now.
a quick roll call of the board members to see who's on the line?
Yes. Got feedback. Director Williams, Camp.
I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
I'm gonna mute everybody. Director Lane?
Here.
Director Wieskamp? Director Eccles?
Here.
Director Coffey?
Here.
Director Waspy?
Here.
Director Rosario?
Here.
And President Corbett?
Here?
Okay.
Okay, everybody's back? All right, our next item is item number 2 on the agenda under Acquisition Stewardship and Development Division. Authorization to amend a contract with Anchor CM for construction management services and to transfer and appropriate funds for the development of the Dunbar Quarry Campground at Coyote Hills Park. And I believe our presentation is Lisa Gorgian and Christina Kelchner. So please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Director Corbett. I'm actually going to hand it over to AGM Jim O'Connor. This has been a joint project between operations and ASD. So AGM O'Connor will start it off, and then Chief of Design and Construction, Lisa Gorgian, will give the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jim? We can't hear you, Jim.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right,
Yeah.
great. Now I need to, oops. There we go. Okay. Good afternoon, President, Court members of the board, Jim O'Connor. I was asked to give the introduction to this item on the agenda because of my association with the project overall and with, as a late with Dunbar and Corey Associates. To give a little bit of background on the project overall, and then I'm going to hand it off to Lisa Gorgian, who will talk specifically about the decision that we're requesting from you today. So I'm going to start off. Let's see if I can get this. There we go. A little bit of background. Just real quick, everybody can hear me, correct? Okay, good. I see thumbs up. Okay, the quarry at Dumbarton has operated for more than 50 years, started in the early 50s, and ceased operations sometime in 2007. During that time, about 15 million cubic yards of material were moved, and that formed the basis of much of the infrastructure in the Bay Area. So it was an important site for the development of the Bay Area since the 1950s. At one point, some of you may not know, but the pit was actually 320 feet plus feet below sea level, which actually made it the deepest point in North America, deeper than Badwater in Death Valley. The original ridge line, which was on this site, which extended to where the, and I think you can see my cursor where the toll plaza is here, was about 200 feet high and extended from where the gun range is today. Once the quarry operation ceased, the reclamation plan included filling in the hole, and we'll get into that a little bit more, but at that time it was estimated to be about 6 million cubic yards of fill material to fill that quarry hole at that time. And when completed, that would make the park about 20 to 40 feet above sea level. Okay, over the course of its many years, there's been different plans and ideas for the reuse of this site. In 1977, Dunbar and Corey Associates had to apply for a use permit with the city of Fremont. At that time, they added an asphalt plant, and the reclamation plan was this very simple marsh area, convert the quarry hole into a marsh with a connection to the bay. In 1996, that original 10-year use permit was up, and they approached the city for an extension of the use permit, and they decided to update the reclamation plan to include some recreational amenities, which included converting the quarry pit to a lake, and also adding some camp amenities and some day use facilities and trails. One challenge with this idea, as we'll get into here, is that that lake would have been over 300 feet deep. A couple problems arose with this idea. Is one, where would the water come from? Two, where would the water go if you were to have a flow through of the lake? A stagnant lake, obviously, if you could find the water, would have multiple problems, including eutrophication, the buildup of algae, over evaporation, the buildup of salts and other unwanted compounds in the water source. Safety issues with having a 300-foot lake. You actually could not, if somebody drowned in that lake, you actually could not recover the body. It'd be almost impossible. What happened then is that original use plan ended in 2007. Sometime between 2007 and about 2011, the Park District and the Dunbar and Corey Associates, they were out of compliance with their agreement in terms of delivering a turnkey park with a lake. At that point, to avoid any type of legal action, we entered into a tolling agreement, and we ended up with a settlement agreement, which you see on the screen now from 2012. Now, one thing I want to make sure everybody's clear, because we have members on the board that have had different association with this 30-plus year project, is that site is owned by Dunbar and Corey Associates, and they will be building the campground at their expense. We, at the time that the campground is completed, we'll get into the phases here in a minute, then the property would turn over to the Park District and become Park District property. If you see on the screen here, we have responsibilities defined by the settlement agreement. We will be assisting Dunbar and Corey Associates with design standards and support that it meets our standards for park design. We will provide construction inspections, ensure that quality of the project when it's turned over to us. We pay for permit and connection fees. We're responsible for the service yard development, which is in the southern end of this project, and we'll be responsible for the future event center if we decide to build it at some time in the future, which is at the north end of the project. DQAs is responsible for the quarry remediation, mitigation and monitoring work, tipping fees, which part of which come to the park district and are offsetting our fees. They do all the engineering and plan approvals, and they do the actual final development of the campground, including phase 1 and phase 2. At this point, how about if I take a pause and see if there's any questions from board members before I move on?
Any questions, anyone? I can't see who's raising your hand, so can you tell me, Yolanda? Because I've got this picture on my screen. Anybody have their hand up, Yolanda?
Nope. No, Madam President.
Okay, thank you, Jim. No questions at this time, it appears.
Okay, I'll move on. Now, out of the 2012 settlement agreement, this, what you see on your screen now, was the plan that came out, the park plan. That plan had the conversion, the major element was conversion of the lake to a meadow, a flat meadow, which then would be just an open meadow like we have in many of our parks. It also included the addition of a 20-site family campground, 17-site walk-in campground. What's not shown on the screen is there's an RV campground with full hookups, utility hookups. That's about 62 sites in the RV campground. It also included the development of an amphitheater for presentation and interpretive purposes, and then also the space and the utilities for a future event center. So that was 2012. This is a simulation, an overhead photo, which simulated what that campground would look like. And if you can see this, there's cursor moving. This is the meadow area. This is the walk-in campground. This is the family campground, which is a drive-in tent camping. This is the RV site. The amphitheater is in this location. The future event center would be in this location. And these are day use facilities, including a campground and some picnic areas. In 2017, Dunbar and Corey Associates approached us with an idea to modify the reclamation plan. At that time, the economy was booming in the Bay Area, and there was a large market for soil from various projects, including BART and the transit project in San Francisco. So a lot of soil that needed transport and storage. And they approached us with an idea to basically restore the ridgeline, the historic ridgeline, to a certain aspect. If you're following my cursor here, here's the existing ridgeline up here, and what we're doing is converting the meadow, instead of a meadow, up into a ridgeline, a restoration of the ridgeline in this area here. This simulation doesn't show the campground and the other developments here, but I'll get into that right now. Okay, the phase 2 proposed revisions convert the meadow into a restored ridgeline. We would get an additional $2 million in tipping fees because that ridgeline would take an additional 4 million cubic yards of soil beyond the 6 million to bring it up to meadow height. We would also get out of this restored plan, we'd get 2 group camping sites, 150 person and 175 person. We'd also get on the ridgeline 26 convenience camping sites with full utilities. And we also get additional shower and restroom buildings, 3 of them that are associated with the convenience camping site and the group camps in that area. The reclamation plan, I'm sorry, Director Corbett. You're on mute.
So the additional tipping fees as a result of the additional tipping and the restoration of the ridgeline, does that come to us in cash, or are you saying that these additional amenities take the place of the $2 million in tipping fees?
No, that's in addition to the additional amenities. Those are fees that come directly to us as revenue.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
You bet. Okay, I'm going to move on just to kind of give you the overview of what the proposed change in phase 2 looks like. Here's the original phase 1 with the RV campground, the day use areas here. This is the family campground. And then this area here are the 26 convenience camps with full utilities that would be installed by Dunbar and Corey Associates. These are the 2 group camps in this area. The project, as proposed in this modification of the park plan, is done in phases. Phase 1 is the current phase, which is the subject of this agenda item. Phase 2 would depend on the dirt market and the economy, and would be done in 2 different phases. Phase 2A, which would include the group camps and a portion of the family campground, and phase 2B, if they got up to the full height of 162 feet, would then include the convenience camp and the remainder of the family campground. All right. And which brings us to Lisa, and we were until about 2 weeks ago under construction. There's been some challenges with that, and just to address that very quickly is I have been in contact with Bob McCarrick at Dunbar and Corey. They're revising their construction schedule, but obviously under the current conditions, they're having real challenges with construction inspections at both public agencies, with the sanitary system, and also with the city of Fremont. So they're working through those issues. And with that, I can answer any questions, and then we can pass it off to Lisa.
Any questions, board members, before Lisa's presentation? I can't see anyone, so.
Yes, Director Lane has a question, Madam President.
Okay, Director Lane.
Jim, could you go back one slide and look at the campgrounds and show me about where the ridge line is?
Sure.
The new ridge.
Yeah. This is it here. Sorry, it's a little bit light, but right here is the ridge line. And then there's a saddle between the existing ridge line and this area. You can see my cursor, correct, Director Lane?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the existing ridge line, the historic ridge line, and this is a saddle. It's between the established ridge line here, and there's a saddle area here where the convenience camp is.
Thank you.
Is that saddle virgin area, or was that added to the saddle?
No, that's constructed as part of the restoration of the ridge line. So that's not habitat at this point.
But that's fill that will be built on?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's no other questions, then I'm going to pass it back off, and we'll see if our technology skills are good here. And I'm going to give up remote control back to Lisa. Thank you.
I think I'm muted now, is that right?
You're fine now.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, good afternoon, President Corbett, Board of Directors. Thank you, Jim, for that introduction. The first slide here, today's recommendation and the board material reflects, as Jim said a couple weeks ago, before the shelter-in-place order was given. And so since then, I just wanted to start off by saying we've heard some concerns from board members that this is a rather large contract amount given the uncertainty around construction and the timing of the work during this current pandemic. So to respond to that, staff has prepared another option, which would be to split the contract into phases. So the first phase would be for an amount of $220,000, and that would, the intent of that is to put it in a phase, and that would get us through fall. Of course, that is depending on when work can resume. And so we've proposed an alternative resolution and given that to District Council for consideration. And if that's an option that the board would like to consider, we would come back in the fall with a progress report of the work to date by the consultant, by the construction management, and an update on construction. And then the idea would be that we would then amend that contract for the remainder of the work and the overseeing construction, and then for that closeout period. So I did want to mention that. And then further, I did want to just touch upon, it is a large contract. And we did this because we've been wanting to follow board direction to not piecemeal contracts. And so to be transparent about the full cost up front. And so that was a request of us to the consultant in proposing a scope and fee about what would it really take, given their understanding of what was entailed in the scale and complexity of this project and our situation with Dumbarton Quarry, constructing it, turning it over to us. That was why we wanted to just be transparent about the whole amount and not come back with we didn't want to surprise the board with amendments later. So certainly that was a while ago. The world's a different place now, but I did just want to address that before I continue on with the presentation. Are there any questions?
I have a question. Does anyone else have a question, Yolanda?
Director Lane has a question.
Okay, and I have a question too. Director Lane?
Thank you. You know, I think I was one of several that had some concerns about this because this did not go through the bid process, and it's a lot of money. And I absolutely agree that we need to have good construction management. We want this to be a quality campground by the bay, and we are committed to providing that management. But I was very concerned about one chunk and making sure that I think it's Anchor had the correct goals before them and was supervised from our angle correctly, so that we do have the best campground possible.
Lisa?
Yes.
I agree with Director Lane, and I do want to say overall, in having an opportunity to review your initial recommendation and the complexity of this project, the interest the board has in continuing to move this forward, the complication of we're not like in charge of the construction, but we want to make sure that this is built to our standards. I'm very supportive of having this type of management contract, and in fact, I would have been supportive of the entire amount at this time because I think it's important. But I do like the idea. Thank you for giving us an alternative with splitting the contract. So is that sort of like a 50% of the project, would you say that you were, and then I have another question after that, 50% of the project, is that the idea?
Yeah, it's probably about half, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a little less than half of what it was. It's not quite half.
Okay. Okay. I do have a process question. If the construction doesn't go forward because DQA is not able to move forward during this period, does the contract with the managers, does that clock not start ticking, or does it start ticking? Because I wouldn't want us to start spending our money because we have an agreement with them and we have some sort of obligation to them if they don't have construction to be managing. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. Those are both good questions. Are there any other questions, or would you like me to respond?
Sure. Responding would be great.
Okay. Well, I do want to address Director Lane's comments. I have that a little bit later in the presentation, but I can address it now.
Yes, please.
And then, but just, and then also, President Corbett, with regard to when we would execute this contract and when to amend it and when they would start, it's a time and material. So they're not going to be charging us unless they're actually doing work. So if we execute the project and there's still not, construction is not happening, they're not going to be charging us for just because they can't get out and inspect. Now, I will say, while construction is not going on, that doesn't mean that construction management services are not happening now. We are receiving a tremendous amount of requests for information and submittals to review from Dunbarton Quarry now. And so that's part of this huge volume of questions and information that this firm is helping us to respond to right now. So I just want to make that understood, that while inspection is not happening right now, there is. Now, if the request for information slow down and the submittals slow down, they're, pencils down, they're not going to be working. So, but let me, so I'm going to move on to Director Lane's question, and it nicely ties in, I think, with the next slide. Well, let's skip to this slide first, then we'll go back. So with regard to the bringing on a construction management firm and a direct appointment, as the board material indicates, unique situations about this firm is that Anchor CM was the original construction management firm under contract with Dunbarton Quarry Associates, and they set up their construction management software program and set up, we're sort of set that structure for construction management for Dunbarton Quarry. They are not under contract with Dunbarton Quarry now, but because of that experience and that previous understanding of the project, we really felt like obtaining proposals would not be in the best interest of the district, because no other firms would have that understanding, that unique understanding, and it would take significant time and expenses for any other firm to come up to speed and be fully informed about the project. You'll see on this slide, it says January 2020. The Dunbarton Quarry began some construction work in 2019. The way they are moving ahead with this project is they are submitting permits sort of parsed out. So they submitted utility permits, and then they started working on utilities, and then they submitted building permits and started working on buildings. So the work was fairly measured, and we were responding to that. And then we heard in late December, early January from Dunbarton Quarry that they were going to be accelerating their schedule, and that they were going to be anticipating the work would be done by midsummer. And at that time, we felt it was really critical for us to ensure that the district was getting a development that met our standards, and to be really able to work with our existing team, our landscape architect who's been reviewing, Kim Collins, who's been reviewing all of their design and all of the design, also with park operations. We've been working as a team, and the focus has really been responding to design questions. And we've really seen this huge increase in now needing more information that has to do with the construction. And so that was on our end. So that was something that we wanted to, timeliness was of an issue for us. So those were the the main pieces of why we went with this firm. I would also note that they went through, they've been hired by the district before using a competitive proposal process. They are the construction management firm that is working on the Albany Beach Golden Gate Fields Trail section, which is, I think, a pretty large and complex project. They also are going to be the construction management firm for the McCosker Creek restoration. So those, I think those are some reasons why we felt in looking at the board operating guidelines that this met the requirement of in the district's best interest to do a direct award.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I'm going to go back to the slide I sort of skipped over. Jim went over this, but this is what's under construction right now is phase 1. So it's the segment to the right.
Lisa, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think General Manager Doyle wanted to say something.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, sorry for interrupting. I just think it's important for the board to know that one of the major changes now is pretty much everything's been about moving dirt and sculpting with underground utilities, but we're going to start building up now. So it's the actual facilities that are construction facilities are going to start going up, and bathrooms and eventually the courtyard. And those are all things that have to be placed exactly right to meet utilities and requirements. So part of that issue for the need is that I'm not going to mention any board members, but there's been a lot of pressure to get this job done. And so it's taken a long time, and we're really trying to move fast. And Dumbarton's ready to move, absent of the COVID-19 situation. So we really felt things were going to get moving so fast that were structures that were going to be built that we really had to be on top of it, and did not want to hold up any reviews because we did not have the expertise on staff. So I think that's an important part of the discussion.
Director Rosario has a question.
Go ahead, Dee.
Yeah, Lisa, is Anchor confident that they have the capacity to complete all 3 projects?
Yeah, I think, we've been working with them on that. One of the things we were anticipating as this accelerated schedule was happening was that it was going to be done at the time that McCosker was going to be starting. Now everything is on hold, and so that's been affecting everything. So we have talked to them about their capacity to work on this, and they have given us assurance that is something that they have. I will say all of our schedules are a bit in flux right now.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure that you guys felt comfortable that they were going to be able to do it. So, okay. Thank you.
District Council, did you have something?
I guess not.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now we can.
Hi, Carol Victor, District Council. I was hoping some of my perspective on the project might be useful. So one thing to keep in mind is that normally when we do very large projects, we have plans and specs that can take up to a year and a half to develop, and then they go out to bid, and there are projects and we control them. This was a project where the plans and specs were actually negotiated in a settlement agreement. So they're not, for what we would normally do for construction, we don't have that because of the nature of how this agreement came about. It's also the size of this project. It's, I think it was valued between $12 and $14 million is the value of the improvement that we will be getting. And for projects of this size, we always have construction managers. The last point with this is that there's always, with construction this significant, there's always issues that come up in the field with construction. And and sometimes post-construction, and then they end up in in the legal department to resolve. And the purpose of having a construction manager is to maintain the relationship with DQA, which has been very positive these last 4 years, to make sure that issues are resolved in the field and that there aren't issues post-construction that could lead to a litigation environment.
Right. That's important. That's really important.
And then, if I may, just the last point, with respect to the no bid, our board operating guidelines allow us to make the general manager to make a recommendation for no bidding when it's in the best interest of the district. Because of the speed of this construction project and the fact that Anchor had actually worked for DQA, it was deemed that it was in the best interest to proceed with a no bid. There would have been no way for us to bring on conduct a bidding process and bring on another construction management firm within the time frame we were looking at. And there's no other construction management firm that would have the inside knowledge of the project other than Anchor.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Yolanda, does anybody else have their hand up?
Dr. Wieskamp has a question. You still can't?
No, I don't have any question at this stage. I will just say I appreciate staff coming forward with an alternative. I have heard from various people that are concerned about it. They were not concerned with the fact of having someone who represented us in construction management at all times. Everybody has said they like that very much. And I like the fact that we have experience with them. They're doing other projects for us. And I don't think they would be interested if they did not feel they were competent and had enough staff to do it. I have a background with this project that goes not all the way back, but it feels like a long time.
All the way to the center of the earth?
Yeah, it just it's amazing how the project has changed, but I think every change has been for the better, for the public, and I think it's going to be wonderful. I can tell you that staff is looking forward to the whole project being complete, including a new place potentially for all kinds of activities that they can't do now. There's excitement not just in Fremont, but in Newark also about it, because Newark is just around the corner, and the mayor was really excited with this project. So I certainly support it. I appreciate Lisa, you and all staff coming forward with an alternative. I think it will go through, and they'll end up doing the. We're not sure when it'll start, and that's kind of a normal part of this project. It just starts and it stops, but I'm going to be positively that it's going to really happen. So would we need to have a new resolution, or how would we move forward with it? With the idea of saving the cost.
Lisa?
If I may.
Yes,
please. Please go ahead.
Carol Victor, District Council. We would just revise the resolution where everywhere there is a number, it would say contract amendment in the amount of $220,000 for a new contract total of $270,000, which is half the cost that were in the original resolution. So those simple amendments would be made, and then we would have to bring it back to the board to award the remainder of the contract at a later date.
Is everybody okay with that? You'll be voting on that proposal today with the new wording of the resolution. Everybody okay with that?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up? Okay, excellent. I would just say, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Madam President. If we're done with the picture.
I'm sorry, take the picture down, is that what you said?
Unless you're not done.
I was just going to show some photos, but I think.
Go ahead, Lisa, show us the photos.
Okay, well, I mean, I know this, I don't want to make it a longer meeting than necessary, but I did just want to add on a couple more things just about the complexity. 62 full service RV sites. So that's water, sewer, electric. That Wi-Fi, it's like a subdivision. So a lot of amenities. Jim ran through this. And then I just wanted to show you some photos, and these were, and then just these are some of the bullets that I think Carol has already mentioned just about, actually we talked about this, what their scope is. So in addition to construction management and the inspecting, really the cost estimating for the bed and rents. So our the district responsibility, like items like Wi-Fi, are really intertwined with existing infrastructure that's going in. So we want to make sure we're not getting charged twice, or that we want somebody to help us with that. And then just the detailed organization of records, as Carol, District Council, alluded to, the value in particular for this type of project. And this is just a couple photos that we took before we were shut down with the utilities. You can see those all stubbed up. So water gets turned into a hose bib, electric gets a pedestal, and the sewer gets dropped down for folks to connect to. The buildings are up, but in shell, there's a lot of work on the inside. So here's the store, shower building, kiosk. So the kiosk is to the left and the camp store is to the right. And then here's the resolution. And I did want to point out, if you can see the hand, this is where you can start to see the fill for the hill, the ridge line coming up. Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have any additional comments or questions for Lisa? No, seeing none. I would just add, I think there's another benefit to moving forward with Anchor CM at this time. I would imagine that once things get better, there's probably going to be a surge of projects that need to get completed and additional construction. So having someone that knows our project, have them committed, as opposed to trying to go find somebody later. If there is a lot of construction going on, I think it's good that we move forward now. All right, if there's no additional questions or comments, a motion on the new amended resolution is in order. Would anybody like someone to read the resolution, or are you all okay? Everybody good? Okay, who'd like to make a motion? Anne? Moved by Director Wieskamp, seconded by Director Waspy. Let's take a roll call. Director Wieskamp. Aye. Director Lane.
Aye.
Director Coffey.
Aye.
Director Rosario.
Aye.
Director Waspy.
Aye.
Director Eccles.
Aye.
Corbett, aye. That's unanimous. Director Waspy, did you have a question, or were you voting?
I was seconding the motion.
Oh, okay. Thank you. There was a delay in the. Okay, that has passed unanimously with the new dollar amounts. All right. So we are now into board and staff reports. General Manager Doyle, do you have any brief comments on actions taken by other jurisdictions?
They're both there for you. I know that there was a question about any impact on the Concord decision not to move forward with Lennar. Would it have an impact directly on the park development? The park development is completely up to us what it would be. It really depends on our ability to fund things in the future. But we're moving forward with Brian and his staff's great work on the plan. The issue is probably take a lot longer to get utilities into the main body of the park. But if we wanted to open up the south parcel with a staging area, that has that potential still there. But we are dependent on new utilities to come in through the development on the main body, like the visitor center. So I don't know if Brian has any other comments.
Brian?
Nothing further to add other than just as General Manager Doyle mentioned, we're prepared to move forward with the land use plan and prepared to move forward with the initial phases of the project. So at this point, the City Council's decision doesn't impact.
Any additional questions or comments, Director Lane?
Well, I do want to say that in a lot of ways, this puts us in a very positive position with people of Concord and Central County, because they see that we're able to progress with something that's important to them. And it's been just a huge turmoil with Lennar the last year. And so things change.
Thank you, Director Lane. Any additional comments or questions on this one? Mr. GM, any other items on this? Other jurisdictions? We done? You're muted.
On the Town of Danville item, it appears that we'll be getting a significant missing link of Sycamore Valley, the open space that was a goal for a very long time to try to acquire some of that. And we're actually getting more than we would have acquired for free with funding to maintain it. So we'll continue to work with the developer and the Town of Danville to move that forward. I really do want to thank both Christina Kelcher and Brian Holt for their work on this project. It was complicated, and I know that those Danville residents that we have around were very actively involved in this ongoing issue. But we did the right thing, and we'll permanently protect it. We guarantee it won't be private, open space, but public, and be some really nice pieces of the physical. I think one thing that gets lost in a debate over development is actually the physical geography. What is the puzzle piece? And so I think we got a big chunk of the ridge and a really nice oak woodland as a part of this. It's not just a flat piece of paper on a map with some development. It has physical geography that's pretty scenic.
All right, Director Lane.
And I do want to say that I think the final vote was 54.4%. So voters came through.
Awesome. All right. Any other, anything else, Mr. GM?
Nope, we're done with that.
Okay, next item 4 is General Manager comments.
You have the comments in writing in the board packet, but I don't know if there's any questions. I did want to just reference above the COVID-19 response issues, it's additional communication in the public board packet, was that we're also being, I won't say besieged, but we are being contacted almost daily about our support of other facilities for response to the COVID-19. So we anticipate that we will probably have some type of a COVID-19 medical facility utilizing our Bridgeyard property. As the board knows, that's actually owned by Caltrans. We lease it from Caltrans, and they have asked us to cooperate and work with them on that potential use. As the board knows, the Craneway in Richmond is already being built as a facility. This is of the same time period and almost same type of military architecture. So it's a similar building, and they'll probably do something a little smaller, but we don't know for sure. But they have contacted us and said they're in a hurry, and I think that's a good collaborative effort to help in this case. We also are dealing with requests for homeless facilities, shelter-in-place facilities on park property, and we are concerned about what that means where we have still park and trails open, and will it be temporary? What's the interaction with our staff on our property? One of those is the Bates Sports Fields. I was going to mention this with the Gilman Street item that you had earlier, but that item is under review by the staff, and we're going to respond. It's not from the state, it's from the city of Berkeley, and we lease the property to the city of Berkeley for $1 a year. And I think probably that was just a real easy target for them instead of looking at other sites because they already leased that from us. But we think there's a significant conflict there between the Bay Trail construction, that activity, and our uses that will be open to the public. So that is not a closed area. It's an open area. The ball fields are closed, but the park and shoreline at East Shore is open. So we're working through that, and we will be responding to that request, and we don't think it's compatible. We're also working with the city of Richmond and Contra Costa County on Ryden Road. When we were ordered to close Point Isabel, we left the Bay Trail open, but closed all of our facilities at Point Isabel. But Ryden Road has had a significant RV homeless encampment there, and there was a concern that there would be no sanitary facilities or washing stations with the park closed. So we are working with Supervisor John Joya in Contra Costa County to get county services to help there. And we believe we have a pretty good opportunity to get them to address that issue. It is a county responsibility. It's not a park district. It's not park district land. It's not park district responsibility, but the city of Richmond, who it is in their jurisdiction, contracts with Contra Costa County for services. So we're in contact with them, and I really appreciate the Office of Supervisor Joya's attention, very responsive. And Eric Kuhler has been working with them, and Christina Kelch has been working with the city of Richmond. So I think we have that headed towards control. But you're going to see more requests of the large ownership of the park district being an easy opportunity for putting temporary facilities. And we know, unfortunately, with homeless facilities, once they're there, very, very hard to make any temporary changes. They become permanent. And so it is a big challenge for us. But I would expect we're going to see more requests across the district for property and or assistance. Director Corbett, thank you.
Director Rosario, thank you, Mr. GM. Director Rosario has a comment. Unmute yourself.
I did.
You're on mute. You're back on mute, Dee.
I'll unmute him. There we go. No, you're muted.
Okay.
There you go.
At the PAC meeting, I think in February, someone brought up that the state actually owns a piece of property inside of Ardenwood, and that was possibly subject to, could be made available for homeless, to accommodate homeless population. So is that true?
That's correct. It doesn't appear to be feasible at this time. We were contacted. Just a reminder that the city of Fremont actually owns the property. We do not own Ardenwood. Always remember who the ownership is. And there is a piece of old Caltrans right-of-way for an overcrossing that was there. I think, again, all the state agencies were required by the government to look at any potential sites. We were contacted about a potential COVID-19 testing site at Ardenwood, where they come in the gate and leave the exit gate. And we thought that could work because it truly was a temporary and important testing facility. They declined that use. So we're monitoring. We'll see if Caltrans comes back. But it's almost in the middle of the park. So it did make a
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments for Bob? Okay. Announcements from closed session. Oh, you're muted again, Carol.
Hi, President Corbett, Carol Victor, District Council. There are no reports from the closed session, but while I have the floor, if I could take care of a little bit of business, which is Kristen Horner, acting park supervisor of Roberts Park, emailed and said she didn't feel like the summary truly captured her remarks accurately. So the board, we've emailed her, we will provide the board a copy of her email with her remarks. And Colin reminded me that he has to be elsewhere on Thursday at 1 o'clock. So would 9:30 a.m. work for the closed session and 11 a.m. for the open session on Thursday?
9:30, 10:30.
Fine with me.
So we only have an hour and a half for the closed session?
Yes.
Is there any way we can do, well, I think we may need a little more time for the closed session.
So how about 9 o'clock a.m. for the closed session, 11 a.m. for the open session?
Everybody okay with that? Thank you very much, General Counsel Victor. GC Victor. Okay. Any other, GC Victor, could you please just announce one more time that the fact that we're having a meeting on Thursday, what time and all that?
Yes, we are having a special meeting of the Board of Directors on Thursday, which is April 9th. And I'm just checking my calendar. Yes, Thursday, April 9th, 9 a.m. closed session, and at 11 o'clock a public session. One of the items on the public session will be operational plans for the holiday.
Okay. Thank you very much. And do we anticipate that the public comment opportunities will be the same as we had today?
Yes, they'll be the same as today. We'll get the notice out tomorrow morning. And just for members of the public who are listening, we are working on improving our public participation technology. And so we will continue to improve it in that regard.
So since this is Tuesday, what will be the time that people should have their comments in for the Thursday meeting that starts at 9?
So I'm going to defer to Yolanda on that, but by the close of business tomorrow would be helpful.
We can talk about that.
But we should let the public know that since tomorrow.
You know, tomorrow would be Wednesday, so I think we should do something like noon on Wednesday, because otherwise we don't have a chance to read it before the meeting. Yolanda has to put it together.
Yes, but I just want to make sure the public hears that, what time they have in order to get their emails in to Yolanda. So should we say, what is noon? Does noon work, Yolanda?
My understanding is that we're posting it tomorrow.
Yes, we won't be posting the meeting towards 9 a.m. Tomorrow. We have to post 24 hours in advance. So I suggest we do the close of business or 4 o'clock in the afternoon to get public comments so we can get those to the board. And of course, the public can always submit comments. Any comments received will be provided to the board. But if they would like them, summarized for the record, we need them by, I think, 4 o'clock.
On Wednesday tomorrow, in order to be available to the board members for the special meeting that starts at 9 a.m. on Thursday, 9 a.m. and then public session at 11.
Correct.
Okay. Yes, Director Lane?
You know, what I found very helpful was clerk put all of those emails together for us. And so I do want to say that while our attorney summarized them, all of us had them ahead and were able to read the entire message.
Yes. Thank you very much for making that point. We did receive the emails last night, and I know, I'm pretty sure everybody was up late last night reviewing a lot of material for today's meeting, including making sure we read all of those letters and transcribed comments that we received. So thank you for making that point, Beverly. All right. With that, anybody have anything additional on the board committee reports? Yes, Director Lane.
Hi, Teresa. I actually,
We can see you.
in looking at the Finance Committee, I just want to make a comment about item 4, which was a summary of the job order contracting. And Ren Bates sent me a list of what had been completed, was in progress, and is being evaluated. And I thank him for that. But I did want to say that in that last section, the Errata barn at Black Diamond is on the list to be evaluated and priced out. And I just want to say that to me, it's very significant that we get to that project as soon as we can, because that bridge roof is beginning to be like a sieve, and it'll turn out to be like John Marsh House and we won't be able to restore it if we don't address that roof. And I'm afraid the roof is going to be really expensive. So I just wanted to let the board know that that's a really significant entry to Black Diamond, and I hope we can proceed with that barn roof. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lane. I just have one question. Oh, yes, Director Rosario, go ahead. Director Rosario, go ahead.
I just wanted to go back to Jim comments under Public Safety Division. There was a major theft of Park District equipment out of the service yard there. And I don't have to have my answer today, but I want to know what the status is of rebuilding the residence there, because the residents overlooked the service yard. So I'd be happy to get an answer from staff later.
Okay, excuse me. AGM O'Connor will get back to us on that. Thank you very much. All right. I just have a quick comment. I don't know where this belongs, but I think somewhere in the record, I don't know if it should show up on this agenda to show that there are committee meetings that have been canceled. So people don't go looking for those committee meetings, just some notation which meetings have been canceled, because we have, all of our March committee meetings did not happen. So we can have that somewhere so the public knows that there weren't meetings that they missed finding the minutes for. Yes, Madam Clerk?
Yes, this is Yolanda, Clerk of the Board. Just want to let you know, Madam President, that when the meetings are canceled, they are posted on the website. The district staff, who's ever in charge of that committee meeting, sends out emails to the appropriate board members and to those members of the public that are always attending these meetings.
Yeah, I'm referring to this on the agenda, that there may be some notation on the agenda too that shows that meetings from the past are canceled. I know what you're referring to. I do get those notices. We usually get them in the mail as well. So that's just what I'm referring to. So thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. It's time for board comments. Director Wieskamp, would you like to make some board comments?
Like all the rest of the board, I am most appreciative of staff at all levels and what they're doing, and the public is appreciative, at least most of the public. I would like to comment that I am very happy that the action for the coyote attack was quick and thorough, and I think that's very important, particularly for that neighborhood in Dublin. And if there's anything that needs to be done in addition, I'd like to hear about that. Most people who talk to me about the parks have been very pleased with the opportunity to walk on trails, and have said that in most instances they thought people that they saw, but this is primarily here in the Livermore-Amador Valley, were following the take care with keeping space. And certainly both within Livermore, the city, LARPD, and so on, everybody said that. I'm sure not everybody's been perfect. I don't know whether it would be any importance, but I don't know about anybody else, but I have been very impressed with our governor and his reports. And maybe it wouldn't hurt if he said that he likes what we're doing, but he would like everybody to mind their manners and be safe out on our trails. He seems open to being helpful. He appreciates what we're doing. So maybe we could get him to do something in his broadcasts. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Sorry, do I have my son? Thank you very much, Director Wieskamp. Director Lane?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to give my appreciation to staff and management for working so hard to try and allow these parks to be taken care of by people and appreciated. And people really do appreciate having the opportunity to get around in some of our parks. I have in the past week or two gone and visited staging areas inside my parks and looked at how many people are parked there and if they're doing social distancing and observing a number of things. And it's I've been very impressed for the most part with what people are doing. And I do want to congratulate people at Las Trampas for planning ahead to have this huge overflow parking lot that is available to people, so they don't have to all double park when we get a lot of people in the park. So thank you to everybody for that. In terms of meetings, they've been canceled. You know, if we go back to March, I did go to the workshop and a couple of Zoom training meetings and a staff update that Brian and Christina gave me, which I appreciated. And I did, in the period we're reporting on, have a meeting with the San Ramon mayor, go to the Danville Mayor's Conference, and Colin and I took a tour of the Black Diamond Mine, new mine exhibit, which was pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the public comments that people are sending. I think I'm now able to read the ones that go both to the Park District and come to mine. And so I'm hearing the diversity of opinions that people have. So be well, everybody.
Thank you very much, Director. Director Coffey?
Yes, thank you. Yolanda and Sharon had a police department photo that I was hoping to be able to share. I don't know whether the technology is there.
Sharon has it and she'll be showing it in a few minutes. Got it?
So this is the East Bay Regional Park District's latest social media star, K9 Maverick, who the police department posted this photo several days ago, and it's been all over social media. K9 Maverick, and Chief Chaburo could add anything I missed, but he's really reflecting here the weariness of coming off, like all our law enforcement, an emergency schedule involving 7 consecutive 12-hour days, at which point Maverick came off duty and he's about ready, as you can see, to take 7 days off. Very proud of all the law enforcement people who are putting in hours, and Maverick as well. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Director Coffey.
I just have echo Director Lane that I've been able to happily get out. Because all these meetings are canceled, I haven't had time to get out and visit staging areas, parking lots, and do some of the trails. Most importantly, talk to the rangers out there. Either track them down and go to the office or see them in their trucks try to stay away, but chat nonetheless. And I've learned a lot, and it's informing most of these decisions we are making on, and ultimately we'll make on Easter and the general endeavor to keep parks and trails open. I've been answering a lot of constituent email, and as per the photo of K9 Maverick, I've been spending a decent amount of time on social media because a lot of people are, and they're talking about our parks, and it's informative, frankly, how much they're talking about our parks. And I did want to point out that our Public Affairs Department got a substantial award that we should all be proud of, and I hope we get a chance to set aside some time to recognize that Public Engagement of the Year award, which reflected a tremendous year, as we all know they had and we did last year. I want to wish, on behalf of all of us, Congressman DeSaulnier a quick recovery. He's still in the hospital recovering from pneumonia. Happily, I think it's in the recovery stage, but he's not out of it yet, and I wanted to extend our thoughts. And lastly, Ellen, I think we would share with both of our long histories with Assemblyman Bob Campbell. It may be appropriate to end the meeting in his memory. Bob passed away, I think, last week.
Yes.
16 years of state assembly, a former Richmond City Council person, someone I knew since I think I was age 15, and hanging around Richmond. Tremendous contributor to West Contra Costa and the cause of the underserved in West Contra Costa, and then in his later years, he was a champion of California education and promoting education and increased attention and resources to public education in the state. So it was a jolt to me to lose Bob, who was such a tremendous presence for all his public life. Thank you.
Yes, a very kind person, a really hardworking, very connected to his constituents, legislator, and we certainly will adjourn in his memory today. Thank you. All right. Director Rosario?
Hi. Let's see, yes. The only things I've attended were right at the beginning of the month, and they're both on the same day. It was the Oakland Economic Summit, which at the time was very promising. And one of the things that they noticed was that the tremendous growth around BART stations. And so all of the new office spaces that are being occupied are because of their proximity to BART stations. Of course, that's all changed now, but at the time it was a very good, pretty good indication of growth. And then that evening I attended the Alameda County Mayor's Conference, which was the last one. And the reason they held it was because we were getting updates for the COVID-19 response from the Alameda County health professionals. And that was the precursor to where we are now. And it was actually a valuable tool. People already had a heads up, and I think everybody's clued in now, and I think we're all in this together. And then the only, outside of going out to parks and seeing my parks, I volunteered a couple hours and picked up litter on Redwood Road. Had my own personal litter stick and my own, picked up about 12 bags of trash. And it's amazing what our park rangers have to go through to keep our parks clean. But I sympathize with that, and I think it's really important that we continue to support our regular employees and our seasonal employees by keeping them on admin leave until we get a safe and until the work sites are safe and we can keep them safe. And with that, I think I just want to thank everyone for their due diligence, their passion for their jobs and their parks and the ability to take care of their families. So thank you all.
Yes. Director Waspy?
Thank you. Yeah, I too want to thank park staff and everybody involved with the Regional Park District. I think we've really stepped up during this crisis, and I think we'll get through it. And based on the good people and the family that we've grown here. I haven't done anything either. I have gone to some of my parks in my ward. I've been to Hayward Shoreline, Anthony Chabot, Lake Chabot. I hiked the trails. I talked to some staff members. I find that people after that first weekend are in fact social distancing themselves. I think other than some of the litter problems, I think things are going well, and I think the Park District is a refuge from all of the reality that we're facing in these last few weeks, and probably will for a few more weeks or maybe even months. But I'm very happy the parks are still open, and I'm proud of all the work we're doing to keep that amenity there. I did have one meeting. It was a Zoom meeting with Assemblymember Quirk, and he was really I guess the meeting came about by Eric Hewler and staff, and Lisa, reaching out to all of our assembly members and all of our political folks, telling them what we were doing about COVID-19. And Bill just said, hey, let's have a meeting, let's talk about it. And was just said, hey, what can I do for you? How can we help you? Our staff was very interested in what's going on and wants to continue meeting. And I think without it, I understand the need for personal protective equipment, which if it is in short supply, which I'm told it is, and I know we won't be at the top of the line, but I think Bill and people like him can help expedite getting us some of that stuff. And I look forward to that, especially keeping our staff safe with the proper personal protective equipment. That's it. I hope everyone stays well, and I hope we continue to meet like this. I got so much information today. I'm amazed at all the great information that's coming out, all the great work that the staff's doing to get educated on this, even though it changes every day. And finally, I'd like to wish Dee Rosario a happy birthday.
Should we sing? All right. Thank you, Director Waspy. Director Eccles?
Well, thanks. Well, like some of the other board directors, I very much want to express my gratitude to all of the employees of the Park District, to the staff and the management for all of your long hours and hard work. And I know it's a very intense and stressful time, and we really appreciate everything you're doing to keep the parks open and to keep our employees safe. I also want to thank the public for their understanding, and I agree with Dennis that, by and large, I believe most of our folks who are visiting the parks are really trying to observe social distancing and picking up their own trash, packing it in, packing it out. And so thank you for that. Thank you for your understanding in this difficult time, and thank you for observing these requirements. And I just really encourage everyone who is not observing these requirements to please do so that we can keep the parks open, so that we can keep the public safe and our staff safe, and also share the other comments. I won't repeat what I said earlier in the meeting, but certainly, it's important to get the additional PPE and other things that are needed for our staff so that they are safe on the job. And I know that the Park District Management is working on that, so extremely important. my last in-person event was the board workshop, although I have had a number of online meetings and phone calls and communications back and forth with constituents and park user groups like Fido and some of our friends windsurfing out at Point Isabel, as well as Sierra Club, and certainly welcome those opportunities to interact with our park users and constituents. So again, I guess I'll just close by thanking everybody for your hard work and for the public for understanding about both the requirements when you're visiting the parks and for those parks that have been closed, for your understanding, and the folks at Point Isabel. I know that was a hard closure when suddenly the county health felt that needed to be closed, and you wanted to thank all those folks out there for their understanding of the situation and really working with us to close everything down. So, as others have said, we're all in it together, and be well.
Thank you, Director Eccles. I would also start with my very sincere appreciation for everything everybody's doing, the sacrifices people are making, the extra hours people are working, time away from their family, time being spent with family too during these difficult times. And very proud to be part of this organization, to really see how people dig deep and are committed to carrying on the mission. I think we're a very good example. I do want to mention again too that there is another meeting on Thursday, and I mention it in this context. There have been several things that people have brought to board members' attention, many of which were discussed today, and more which will be discussed in 2 days on Thursday. So I just want people to know that we're still, acting on issues that have been raised, and we have not forgotten things that people have raised. So we appreciate you continuing to keep us in the loop. I also want to thank the public for understanding that we're providing, an opportunity for people to get outside. It is more limited. We're sorry it's less convenient. It's not maybe as pleasant in some cases, but I hope you all understand we're doing the best we can to keep our staff safe and to continue to keep the parks open. I know the rest of you have been spending a lot of additional time responding to phone calls and letters, reading those letters, and I want people to know that we're reading every single one and taking them to heart. So thank you for that. On meetings, I did attend the workshop 1 on the 6th. It seems so long ago. Even though we are working virtually now, I hope we may have some opportunity to revisit the information that we put together at that meeting, and we can have some at-home homework so we continue to move forward on some of those issues as things settle down, that is, of course. So maybe we can revisit that. On the 13th, I had an opportunity to meet with Eric Fuller and Lisa Baldinger just to review our trip to Washington, D.C., which also seems so long ago, and just to talk about all the positive things that happened and how we move forward from there, and ways to improve, but ways to appreciate the work that was done. I too have had several Zoom meetings, one with labor on Saturday, one with staff as well on Saturday to go over some issues, some ongoing projects in my district and elsewhere. And I too attended the technical training on the 1st and the 3rd to help us all get ready for these Zoom meetings. And I do want to say, everybody, you're all doing fabulously. I think it's working out very well. We've had a few glitches. And thank you to all the staff, Harold, Yolanda, Sharon, everybody else over there in IS who has supported us on this. We know you're working really hard too. make sure we continue to have public meetings. We appreciate that. Of course, I attended the special meeting on the 19th, and I too visited several of my parks and Crown Beach and MLK, and people are out walking, enjoying our open spaces. Staff is out too, very busy, continuing to maintain those areas so that we can continue to offer open parks to folks. So thank you all for that. And one last thing before we do the adjournment, I just wanted to ask the GM, will the potential for use of Bridge Yard, will that need an action of the board?
We don't know yet. We'll bring that back as soon as we know. It really sounded like they were going to move fast on a decision.
Yeah.
We'll bring that back through legal counsel as well.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure we were available to be able to address it if you need us to in a
And
quick.
we may have some information by Thursday. I don't know.
Okay, okay, that would be good. So if you need us, yeah, I think we want to be able to act quickly too. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Bob. And with that, thank you very much, Director Coffey. You did a wonderful job of memorializing Assembly Member, Supervisor, all around town, good person, Bob Campbell, who was very dear to many of us. And we thank him and his family for his public service, sharing him with all the rest of us, and thank him for all the good work that he did in service to his constituents. And with that, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all very much. Until Thursday. Thank you all very much. Bye-bye.